Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dagan Moriarty. Now, Dagan, don't even say a word yet. I'm not going to do this often on the show. However, because we don't solicit feedback on the show like we do on other shows, but someone wrote in, and I wanted you to hear this. They wrote in about you your I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we had your guilty pleasure movies.
Okay.
Kinnem said, please tell Dagan the following. I was driving home from work listening to the podcast. The guilty pleasure movies topic begins. Dagan states his first is Thrashin'. I gasp in shock and miss my turn. Later on, he then states the second movie as Rad. I almost crashed my car. In the past 3 years, I made my girlfriend watch both of these movies at least 4 times, reciting the liners and singing the soundtrack. 2 of my favorite classical movies from my childhood that I revisit annually. She thinks I am a mad old dinosaur with no taste for film. Thank you, Dagan Moriarty. You validated me.
Nice. Now we have 2 dinosaurs.
Yes.
My fellow in arms. I love it.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I just ate an everything bagel right before coming to join you guys. That's not a good podcasting move. Not on video.
No, you don't want to eat.
I realized, what did I just eat? Because that flavor's still in your mouth, and then I had to go check my teeth real quick. Thank God I remembered. And I did have giant poppy seed the size of a blueberry in there, of course.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I won't be doing that again.
I love everything bagels. We should do a bagel topic one day. That won't be today, but we should definitely do a bagel topic. I'm so passionate.
Great topic.
I'm so passionate about them. Speaking of bagels, New York's own Puerto Rican fighter, Chris Reagan. Chris, how are you today, my friend?
I'm good. I just got out of a sparring match with some really intense coaches. Today was actually like one of the first days that we've done in an actual ring. If anybody's not caught up, I'm doing the creator clash. There's a ton of information on that now. But so it was pretty nuts. I got dinged up a little bit. My head is, I can feel my heartbeat in my head, but like whatever.
You got your bell rung, as it were.
Yeah, a little bit.
We've gotten this one specific question about you, Chris, in regards to this. We didn't get into it on Sacred Symbols. I can't believe it, because we could have gone on probably 45 minutes to an hour. People would have loved that.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about your glasses?
Oh, I have my strategy is I'm going to, in the middle of the fight, I'm going to put them on, and then I'm going to be like, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?
I love it.
And then no matter what he does, he loses. Because if he hits a guy with glasses, he just loses. That's a dick move.
Exactly.
That's
exactly right. I love that.
No, for real though. I actually have in a couple days, I have a consultation with I don't know the word. I'm sure there's like a very specific word for this type of practitioner, but I'm going to be looking into LASIK. So I'm going to do a thing and see if I qualify. I know some people don't, because some people's eyes don't necessarily work well with the procedure, or there's like a stipulation where your prescription can't change in a certain amount of time. It's a bunch of factors that go into it, but if I can't, then I'll just do contacts. There's plenty of fighters in the last year who went last year in last year's Creator Clash who had contacts, and it seemed fine. I've been training without them. So I've been training kind of blind anyway. So I'm kind of used to...
You're fighting on instinct? You see colors like...
Yeah. I can still fight. Like, I understand like I'm not going to be able to like read the subtle like inflections on a human face from like 10 feet away, but I don't need to do that. If I'm up close and personal, like punching a dude in the head. So it's not that much. It would just be beneficial for me to see better, just in general. I've been putting off LASIK for a long time just because it freaks me out. I've heard so many horror stories about, dude, you can smell your eye burning, and it's such a horrifying smell. And I'm like, that's awful to hear.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad news, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you were going to wear goggles like James Costanza? Worthy or something, or Horace Grant.
George Costanza's prescription goggles.
Right, exactly. I was hoping that you were going to break that out, be very NBA. Well, congratulations to you. Go check it out online if you want to support Chris. It can be a lot of fun. He's gonna pound the shit out of that guy. What's his name? Froggy Fresh?
Yeah,
you're gonna kick the shit out of him. I can't wait. Finally, Gene Park. I'm so very, very, very pleased to have you here, my friend. How are you today?
Pretty good. I just came back from the newsroom, to catch you up on the news. The Washington Post just laid off 20 of its staff, including my entire team at the video game vertical. So I am now So I am now the only person at the Washington Post covering video games. So just went into office to check stock and everything and talk to a bunch of people. A lot of working at a big company like that is, forming alliances, forming coalitions. If y'all don't know, like working in a big place like that requires a lot of politicking, talking to the right people, getting the right ears, and so that's basically what I was doing. And I did it all in my Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise Origins trucker hat too.
Yeah, excellent. Yes. I love that. Well, for people that aren't caught up, first of all, you're healthy now, right? Or you're on the should we say on the mend?
Yeah, I'm healthy. I am cancer free. I am on the mend, still on chemo, but that's adjuvant. It basically means to smother any chances for any recurrence. Anyone who has cancer, there's always a shadow of possibility of it coming back. So we're just making sure that doesn't happen. So I actually just came back from the hospital to get some blood drawn because I still got to do that like every other week too. Well, because you got to keep tabs on making sure that everything in my blood is looking okay, and it's looking okay.
Excellent, man. We're so pleased for you. The audience is so happy for you. And we're thrilled to have you here on Constellation. People have been asking for you. People in the audience love you. It's very similar to Dagan. I always say Dagan's got this thing where like no one says anything bad about Dagan and no one says anything bad about Gene either. It's so strange. They take all out on me and Chris.
I see it, and I want to thank everyone who's been, like even after the news of the layoffs, like people were like, "You should just join Last Stand Media." I'm like, well, like we'll see, but it's interesting to see all that feedback coming through because there's just a lot of people now that are paying attention to me, thanks to the podcast. So just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who's been there for me and who's not,
awesome,
everyone who's just listening. That you're awesome. So
awesome, love it. And I'm sorry to hear about, and we talked privately when it all went down, but about what happened at the Washington Post. We're obviously sorry to hear that. However, I am glad that you survived. I told you that when I was texting you, I was actually texting you when we were recording Sacred Symbols Plus, I think. And I sent the information that you weren't laid off to my team because they were all like, oh shit, Gene got laid off. And I'm like, no, he'll tell everyone when he's ready, but he's okay.
Yeah.
And I told you, like, I think this is a great opportunity for you. The Washington Post should cover games like it covers all like movies where it should just be on the entertainment page. Don't other it. Stop othering games.
Yeah.
It's
interesting you say that because your former colleague and Greg Miller also said the exact same thing on Kind of Funny Games. He was like, I didn't like it that they put the video game section into like another vertical. It should just be, I'm so and so and I cover video games for the Washington Post. And so, even though obviously I hate that I'm losing my team, I wish I could bring them with me, and I wish we all just cover video games for the Washington Post. Ultimately, I'm okay with getting rid of the brand. I was never a fan of the brand. The Washington Post is the brand.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Well, we're glad to have you here. You're very welcome with us all the time. So we're gonna continue to. I told you, and I'll tell it straight up. I was like, we can do as much as Gene wants to do together. So. It's really, we love him. We're glad you're healthy. We're glad you're here. And thank you for taking the time. And Chris, I wanted to tell you too, Gene really, like when we first started doing, we couldn't do it together at first, but when we first started recording, Gene was very eager to record a podcast with you too.
Because Chris Reagan was my gateway drug into the LSM family. Well, I guess Matty plays too because he covers so much Fallout. So it's like, oh, well, I gotta talk to Matty too. But yeah, I mean, Chris is the Halo guy. I feel like I've been listening to Chris for like 10 years, even though I don't know if he's been around that long.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is inconceivable to me. I have been around for unfortunately a lot longer than that.
yeah, exactly.
But that's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I still always think of Chris as being the same age when I met him. I think he was 24 when I met him. Yeah, and so when people ask me, how old's Chris? I'm like, oh, he's like 25.
Yeah.
No, that's like not true at all.
Yeah, no, I'm turning 30 this year.
I know.
Oh boy.
You're my forever boy. All right. Gene, you're our guest, so I want to go to you first. This is, of course, our topical podcast. Anything goes. I'm wondering what you want to talk about today.
Yeah, so happy to be on this cool concept. I love to be in the constellation of the orbit of the Last Stand Media planet. And my topic is IRL side quests. Just basically things that you do in life that is not part of your main quest, not part of your main career, not part of your main path or calling. At school, they always kind of, I don't know what kind of school, if they told this to anyone else, but like they always told me, you got to do extracurricular activities because colleges love that shit, right?
Yeah,
and
totally.
it's like you got to like join all these clubs and everything like that. So I was like, all right, like they kind of drill it into you early. So like, but do people do that? Like I assume that everyone here has done that because you all are doing a podcast, and like I don't know if like there's other things you do. But for me, like I've always done it because I always did buy into the fact that it does kind of enrich your worldview, your experience. For example, in high school, I joined the Navy JROTC, the Reserve Officer Training Corps, and that was a side quest in school, mostly because I felt like I needed to learn some discipline, And the Navy being having this kind of military training. I'm not saying I was in the military. I'm just saying military training. No stolen valor here, I promise. In the JROTC, they would teach you how to shine your shoes, make sure you clean your dress whites, make sure your hair is cropped tight, high and tight. Mm-hmm. But like all that stuff kind of really taught me early, at least in my teen years, to kind of really discipline and kind of make sure that I'm presentable, and I think that kind of weaves in nicely with another topic that we're going to talk about later today. And then when I grew up, I started to like join I've joined like other groups like a Rotary Club,
nice.
Or a Chamber of Commerce. Like I would get involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And for me, if anyone asks me like what is like the weirdest side quest I've ever done, it's definitely the time that I was a judge for beauty pageants, namely the Miss America and the Ms. America beauty pageants.
Are those different things?
Yes, the Miss America is for ages 25 and under, and the Ms. America are for the old ladies, 26 and up. So,
oh, interesting!
Wow,
yeah.
You're so interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. I want to know more about this.
Well, I got involved because my ex-girlfriend was a fashion designer. She designed clothes and she had her own like fashion boutique. This was in Hawaii, so she ran her own like boutique that sold like swimsuits and like summer dresses and all that stuff. She designed all that crap. So that's why I kind of got adjacent to like the fashion world. Like when I was not in journalism, like I would help her put together like these things called trunk shows, where you would have trunks out to basically sell out on the street, and the trunk show would have like a fashion show, So we go around scouting models, and then so just me being around my ex-girlfriend, like being around all these models, like exposed me to the Miss American circuit, and like at that time I was a pretty well-known journalist, like in Hawaii, like I was huge on social media back in like 2009, 2010 in Hawaii, So I was kind of an influencer, and the Miss America pageant was like, well, we love like prominent members of our community like judging women, I guess.
That's awesome.
So I was like, shit, yeah, like that sounds like fun. So I got involved, and there are like actual conflicts of interest, So like my ex-girlfriend, like she ran for the Ms. America pageant because we were the same age. She's actually like a few months older than me, So if I'm 41 right now, she'd just be around 41. But this was back when we were both like 27 or whatever. So I got introduced to the Ms. Hawaii program, and through that I got involved in the Miss Hawaii program. That feeds into the overall. The Miss Hawaii program feeds into the Miss America program.
This is fucking insane.
Yeah,
I understand. It's one of the most insane things I've ever. Were you like the Simon Cowell of the judges?
I don't know. Like I wasn't like mean about it. Like, but like I would literally judge women and I'll give them a rating out of 10.
There's no real polite way to do that.
Yeah, like this is like a loud judgment, like rating out of 10. Like I'd be like, like so it'd be the swimsuit portion, and the Ms. America portion would be one piece. The Miss America would be two pieces because they're younger, right? And there'd be the talent portion and there'd be the questions portion. So
Dude, I love it. You know what I always think about when I think of Miss America question portion is, remember the woman, the blonde girl that was like the Iraq?
Yeah.
You knew exactly what I was going to say. Like where she was going on and on about Iraq. And I was like, this is awesome. I felt like that was a very early video being circulated like in the early YouTube kind of era.
That was back when you could see a video of something just so stupid and you knew for sure it wasn't fake.
Right, exactly.
Where now it's like this could be like a complete like attention bid. But like back then it was just pure like, no, this is just genuinely this person's authentic. Nowadays that's just that person's brain short circuiting and cracking under the pressure of being on live television probably like in front of millions of people.
Yeah. That was like no fake. That she wasn't like trying to like be dumb for clout or anything like that, because like that concept was just kind of like emerging at the time. So it was just her brain just being completely broken and just saying whatever.
Yeah, that was pre-clout.
Fortunately, I've never experienced any women who said anything close to that. So, well, unfortunately, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, then you would get to hold up the 0 or whatever. Get out of here.
I don't think I gave anything. I think I was very video game critic about it. I don't think I gave anything less than like a 7. Like it was always, exactly.
7 to 10.
So, but there is 7 out of 10 exactly. The graphics, so.
Too much water.
But there is a conflict of interest. If I was involved with any of these women, then I couldn't judge I obviously couldn't judge their pageants. So there were a few qualifying pageants, because there'll be like the local neighborhoods, within like, so there'd be like Miss Waikiki and like Miss Chinatown. So like if I was involved with anyone in Miss Chinatown,
that must have been wonderful, by the way.
So good.
Well, yeah, because like you're basically cutting out like the bottom to like have like the top 10 women like of the state or whatever.
There was like a model woman for each like vague neighborhood. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah, Miss Chinatown, which is like a couple blocks, man.
It gets better and better.
Miss New Brunswick.
It's very federal.
Yeah.
It's got like all these different subdivisions. Very, very federal.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love the idea of you.
Blocks.
I love the idea of you accusing yourself, by the way. I just think that's hysterical too.
So, Your Honor, she's my baby girl. I have to recuse myself.
That's so crazy.
And that happens sometimes, where obviously, again, like my ex-girlfriend was Ms. Waikiki. So like I could not be involved with anything she was involved with.
Wow.
And and like also, fun fact, the Ms. America pageant is a completely different company than the Miss America pageant. The Ms. America pageant was under the Trump organization.
Oh, that's that. Okay, I knew he was involved in one of them. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So there's like the Ms. and the Mrs., which are the married women that are 26 and over.
Okay, so. Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I like the idea of you judging with your Final Fantasy Strangers Origins, whatever that hat. Exactly. Right now at the Miss America pageant.
Yeah. So it was always fun because like I'd just be at these pageants and like I'd just be introduced by and here's your honorable judges, Gene Park from the Honolulu Star Advertiser, reporter. And I just stand up and like just wave to everybody and like, yep, that's me.
Love that.
And here's the funny thing about me calling it a side quest. This side quest actually fed into, like any good side quests, it would feed into and support the main quest, right?
Right.
It should, right? Those are the best, those are the best side quests in games, like The Witcher or even God of War Ragnarok or Fallout or something, right? So this side quest, there was another ex-girlfriend who was with the Miss America track, right? Again, and she was Miss Honolulu, and when I was applying for the Washington Post, I needed to practice on how to interview, because at the Washington Post, I had to face down 18 interviews to get the job.
I believe 18, it, dude.
Yeah. Wow. With 18 different people. It's a really, really hard job to get, right? Just, the Washington Post always like to brag that it's harder to get an internship there than it is to get into like Harvard or Stanford or whatever, and so to just get a job there is like brutal. And so I needed to interview these people in the East Coast, and I'm not familiar with like East Coast people or like whatever, or like especially people in Washington D.C. So I would try to bounce off my interview process with like people I knew in business, and this is in Hawaii, so they'll be like, Gene, I think you're being a little bit like too conceited. And I'm like, this is not the feedback. This is actually not the feedback I need to hear, because I refuse to accept it. I refuse to accept it. That is bad feedback, because I should be conceited. I should be selling myself. This is a job interview, and I need to believe in myself. So I asked my ex-girlfriend, who is Miss Honolulu, and she gave me the excellent feedback about how to present myself, how to stare into the camera, like what to do with my hands as I'm talking. And that was feedback I accepted. She didn't say one thing about whether I was too conceited or not. She was like, "That's perfect. You sound great."
She molded you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and this was the kind of feedback I needed, and that's the kind of presentation that I needed, and that's the kind of information and advice I could have only gotten from a Miss American contestant.
I love this. I love this.
So,
this is a very intimate side quest. Very much like Yuffie or Vincent in Final Fantasy VII. Like almost feels like it's necessary.
Yeah. It like you wouldn't be able to finish it without the it would be an incomplete life like file.
Can I also just say? Can I also just say this, that Chris, we'll go to you next. Is about your thoughts on this. Is I love Gene just low key stunning, being like, so my girlfriend was Miss Honolulu.
Yeah. Then my other also
you slipped that in, Gene. You had to just slip that in.
I mean, I'm not even slipping it in. I'm just saying it. Like it's just.
What do you mean? It's simply a fact.
Yeah,
I'm simply relaying facts.
It's not being conceited.
I'm just being a reporter, stating the facts.
Right.
That's it,
Just the facts. Just the facts. I love it. I love this whole story. It gives you so much texture. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. No, I love that idea. Like, I feel like I'm the opposite person. Where like I remember like my parents were like, you should really do extracurricular activities because colleges love that, and I was like, that's crazy. I don't care at all. I'm not going to spend more time in school than I absolutely have to, because I think I had some, I don't know, like I started YouTube very, very early. Like I started YouTube in probably not in middle school, because YouTube wasn't around in middle school, but I think junior high, like maybe like 7th or 8th grade.
Wow, you were young.
YouTube was out.
Wow.
And I was like, I remember like watching all these like people explode on it, and I was like, this is really fascinating. And I think even at that age, I had this notion that this is unlike anything before or anything probably after. This is like a really huge game changer, and I think there's probably a lot of opportunity here. I think I know what I want to do. I want to carve out a space for myself in this thing. I wouldn't have been able to like verbalize that complex thought at that time, but I think I felt that very, very intensely. And so when my parents were like, "Oh, you should really start thinking about college," and I was like, "I really don't. I'm really not at all," because I wanted to do film. I'm not going to go to film school. It's such a waste. I'm sorry, but like Quentin Tarantino did like these like amazing directors or these like amazing, none of them. Like none of them. Like they're all like, they did like business, or they were like ex-lawyers, or they were just like architects. Weird Al Yankovic went to school for architecture. Did you know this?
No.
He could design a building, and it would be legal for him to do that. Like he's an architect. Weird Al Yankovic. So to me, I was just like, I don't know. It was never important to me. And like these side quests, like I love the idea of placing clubs or like extracurriculars as side quests, but I think the side quests that I usually involve myself in are a lot more like literal. Like I remember I was coming out of a bar with like friends of mine, and then we were on our way home, and then on the steps outside of this like courthouse, there was this drunk lady, like just like rolling around on the ground, and she was like, "I lost my friends. I don't know where they are." And then we all stopped. We were like, where do you have to go, or like where do you think your friends went? And she was like, I don't know, I just want to go back to my hotel. And I was like, where is that? And then she gave us not the real name of the hotel, but like, because I don't think she actually remembered, but I could piece together like, oh, I know this area, I know what she's talking about. And so we all brought her home. We brought this woman. I have a picture too. It's hilarious. It's like my friends picking this woman up, and I'm kind of walking behind. Pissed herself. Like this is like a big, huge stain on the back of her pants. Like this is I can't believe this is happening. And then we brought her up to her room, and then like we brought her up to the room in this hotel, and like just let her in, and she was like, "They're not here." And I remember at that point I turned to like the rest of them. I was like, "We've done as much as we should probably do."
Totally.
Like we put this person from a dangerous position into a safe position. That's all we need to do. We're not gonna find this woman's friends. We're not gonna go we're not gonna do this extra step. We've done a little side activity, gained some XP.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we're out of there.
Yeah, this sounds like like one of those chains of quests. Because what you were saying when the woman like gave you directions, it reminds me of one of those side quests in a game where they won't tell you exactly where to go, but they're like somewhere in this circle on the map.
It's exactly
is where you need to be. And then the next, like you bring her, it's like Cyberpunk. You bring her, and then the next quest pops up and a little exclamation point, and then you talk to her. Now she needs to know where her friends are. But you've opted to be like, I'm done. I want to go back to the main quest now.
Yeah, exactly.
It also sounds like a walk and talk side quest too, where like an Assassin's Creed or God of War, where you're just kind of like walking alongside like the person and they're just kind of talking, and you can't go any faster.
Right, exactly. It's like exposition. They're like, we have to have the exposition.
Yeah, she's got to piss herself. She's got to piss herself.
Look, this is 3 a.m. Okay, this is 3 in the morning. We brought this woman to our hotel.
Is this in LA? This is in LA.
This is Burbank. This is Burbank.
Burbank, which is not bad at all.
No, Burbank. No, it's not like not like a dangerous place at all. It's just it's a very funny place actually. I really love Burbank. Like Burbank's probably like the only place in LA proper that I really like. It speaks to me as like an East Coaster. It's very walkable. It's like there's all these like little interactions. Nobody's like weird or even the homeless people are like super nice. Like,
they're not like the Venice Beach homeless people where they're like
no it's not like a situation
aggressive.
No, it's not a red bar enemy. It's
not a level 99 field boss that you got to deal with
the little skull icon next to it. It's trying to tell you shouldn't be here.
No, they're usually like playing guitar and they sound great and like they're actually like, you know what I mean? It's just like, this is pretty cool. But those are the kind of things that I will like, things that I know are not good. Like a club, that's a fucking massive side commitment that I'm not even. But I also kind of don't think I have a main story. I feel like my whole life is kind of like side quest. Like, what the fuck am I doing even? Boxing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? That's a side quest.
That's a super side quest right there.
Yeah, right. This is the most side quest thing that I've done for sure. And it's not going to feed back into the main story, I promise.
Yeah, this is the Coliseum of your life. This is the Coliseum that's in there. You got the battle arena.
Absolutely, this is PvP.
Yeah, it's PvP exactly.
I love that. Dave, where does your mind go on this question?
I mean, that was awesome. And also, how do you make us follow Gene? I mean, what do I almost feel like passing. It's like, what can I possibly even say to top that? I'll tell you. I mean, I was thinking about this when we got Gene's email about the topic, and it made me think of a few things, but also Gene's topic inspired me a little bit.
Great.
Now, like Chris, I grew up really not being a joiner at all. And I think why was because I was discouraged and kind of deterred by a childhood of just failing at every little league sport. Like I just wasn't good at anything. But I think I was smart enough to realize like I'm not good at it and kind of get bummed about it. Like why aren't I better at this, and try to make really an effort to how can I improve at this? Like I was thoughtful, but the physical activities just weren't clicking with me, from baseball to hockey to football to soccer. Like I just wasn't good enough at any of those things. And then later on, I found skateboarding like eighth or ninth grade, and I always enjoyed art. So I kind of found those two things that I was, pretty good at, acceptable at. And I kind of stuck with those things. And I remember in high school, not like out of some sort of inclination to get into a good college or whatever, but I just wasn't inclined to join because I think I was worried that I just would be wasting my time. Like I felt like when I was a kid, I would be spinning my wheels. But I did in high school, I did join the school newspaper because I enjoyed writing. Mm-hmm. I drew comic strips for the school paper. I did illustration for other people's stories. So that was kind of cool. I found out in high school that animators or prospective animators should be good actors. And I honestly didn't even understand it at the time. I was just like, I don't see how, it seemed like apples and oranges, but I was like, all right, if I have to do that. So that I went through a brief flirtation of theater in high school and tried out for Brighton Beach Memoirs and tried out for the lead, decided it would be a good idea to just jump right into the theater and also go out for the lead with kids that have been doing this for, 5, 6, 7 years or whatever since junior high, and tried out for the part of Eugene and got roundly rejected for it. I remember doing his little monologue up on stage. Our high school English teacher was the Mr. Mann, Colin, remember, he was the director of the play. And he didn't like me in the first place. So I didn't really have a leg to stand on. But that was really all I went through in high school. And then I kind of figured out that all of my side activities, like I just kind of wrapped myself up as a young adult in everything art and animation related. At some point, that led to like feeling, I think, a little burnt out. So then I was like, you know what? I think I need like a side quest or a side hustle or just a hobby that sort of removes me from my daily grind or the thing that I do the most, which was drawing, animating, art, whatever kind of creative endeavors I was doing for a living, for my livelihood. I would need something completely detached from that in order to just have a break from it. So I started to think of like, well, what are my interests that I have no history with, no background in, no expertise in whatsoever, but something I could see doing? Like, I like cars. Do I like buy a lemon and start like working on engines? Like something, do I take up an instrument? I have no musical inclination whatsoever, but I always thought it'd be kind of fun to play an instrument. It's something creative, but removed from my day-to-day, at least my 9 to 5, 40-hour-a-week gig or whatever. So I figured that. But you know what? Most recently I realized, and not to be a buzzkill on the topic, but for me, I realized like, dude, I don't do anything charitable. Like I'm so sort of pinned down in my own, little universe or my little four-person family living under this roof and everything we've got to do, our grind, pursuing the almighty dollar and all that kind of stuff, trying to ascend in my career. Like I don't do anything charitable. So, I could see getting involved in something like whatever charity of your choice. Where's your heart? Like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, an animal related charity, like something. So that's where I'm at now, where I realize I have to kind of go outside of myself and do something helpful and stop dwelling on myself so much. Like how can I kind of spin a little side thing into something that could benefit other people? For me, I was lucky to I kind of have a little side. I don't really call it a side hustle. I call it a side passion in podcasting over the last 4 or 5 years. I found something that I really enjoy doing, having a conversation with like-minded people about nerdy topics. I love that, so I already have that. So that's my selfish little thing unto myself that I could just pursue and enjoy. So now I think that's where I have to get a little more involved outside and do something that's charitable, like use my resources, my creativity, whatever I have, whatever resources I have at my disposal to kind of share. It's not, now listen, it's not going to be as fun as beauty pageants.
Well, I'm going to say beauty pageants do give us scholarship money. So there's that. So, if you want to help other people, you can help these women,
help these women, Dig.
I might look into this.
It's so funny, Dagan. Like we truly are brothers. My mind, maybe it's the Catholic guilt too. My mind went directly towards how little I do for other people. But I want to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
For like, this is just from the heart. And I don't know that any of you would disagree with me on this show. I think it's super awesome that people do Big Brother, Big Sister. These are people that dedicate their time, things like this, right? Like just dedicate their time. They run a soup kitchen. They do all that kind of stuff. When it comes to things like Big Brother, Big Sister, I don't know that you could hold a gun to my fucking head and have me do that level of charity.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that says something about me or not, but it's like, I don't talk to the people I like. You know, like I love a group of people that I barely get to talk to. So I think that, because it's funny, it's like, I've been thinking about that too. Do I volunteer to soup kitchen? Maybe it's like, I kind of like the idea. I'm not a religious person. I'm not in a church as an adult, but the whole idea of tithing, I think, is actually kind of cool. You know, but I just don't like the idea of people taking my money. Like, think about the government. They take all this money and then they just spend it so poorly. This happens at all sorts of places that are charitable as well. So I have to think, it's so funny your mind went there, because I have to think about how I can do that too. Because I think it's important. And Definitely. I think that I've been like totally out to lunch on giving back in some way. You know, like I'll throw in a $20 bill into the red, you know, Salvation Army thing at Christmas or whatever, but that's like, but it's like, whatever, man. I mean, that's like nothing, you know, like that's what really it's, I think part of charity, I think like real charity is it takes something, like you have to do something. And I don't know that me just writing a check is doing enough, you know, maybe my time is actually more valuable than the resources. So I should figure that out. But the idea of me like going to like some sort of YMCA or whatever and just meeting some random kid and then like becoming their big brother. It's like that. Can you imagine me being someone's big brother?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh my God.
Do it.
I'd make them so neurotic and fucked up. It would be hysterical. So
like, shut the fuck up. You're wrong.
But as far as side questing is concerned, I love this topic, Gene. I think this is an awesome topic. And I like your idea. I thought it was very canny to like say like, well, a good side quest feeds into the main quest. And what better side quest would be for me to kind of just talk about briefly than my strategy guide writing when I was a kid. Because I did this for no reason. It has to be reiterated that I was doing all of this work, like thousands of hours of work in high school, probably for free. Just for absolute no reason, just no. I had a social life. I had friends, but just wouldn't go out, wouldn't do anything, just write these things over and over again. But for some reason, someone found me and started paying me to do it, even though I was doing it for free. So it was great. And that would probably be the closest thing for me to a side quest. The other thing that percolates in the background for me throughout my life is chess. I'm a huge chess fan. And what's funny is I started playing chess in elementary school, I think, or early middle school, when you learn how to play. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I recently told the story. I don't know if you heard it, Dagan, about how I destroyed your son at chess in one of the shows. I don't know if you heard that one.
Well, you told me.
Oh, yeah. And the whole thing was that we were talking about, should you go easy on kids or not? And I'm like, absolutely not. I destroyed Dagan's son in chess, absolutely obliterated him. He was like 7 years old. But that, like, I what's funny about chess is it comes and goes. And I always say, if I had to choose one game, it would be chess. Like if I could only play one game for the rest of my life, unfortunately, video games go away. And I would play chess. It's endlessly entertaining. And I sit on chess.com sometimes for hours a day and just play in my recliner. And my score goes up and down and I'm playing people from all over the world. And it's really cool.
That's fun.
But there are these bursts in time where it just goes away. And I think it's my mind. Like I'm a very obsessive person. I think that's obvious to the audience. I get very into things and then I really study them and pull them apart. And then I'm on to the next thing. And I think that comes from just being a video gamer, where sticking on chess and then being like, I've played so much chess in the last 3 months. What a waste of time. And then I just don't play it for like 2 years. You know, that's literally the whole cycle of my relationship with it.
Yeah.
And, but I become better and better and better and better at it. And it's a wonderful game. So I think that was always this, and hockey when I was younger, probably a good side quest too. But I think strategy guides makes the most sense. Just all this work going into this thing for no reason. Our dad just being like, what are you doing? You know, I would tell stories about when my dad would get mad at me. I would like do bad in school or get bad grade or whatever. He would do things like take the phone cord out of my computer or take all of the controllers from the consoles in my room. So they would all just be there, but I couldn't play any of them. Of course, he didn't know I would just go to my friend's house and take their controllers and then play. But so who knows, man? I mean, it's I was doing these things out of pure love, and maybe that's the best side quest of all.
Yep, I love it, dude. And it fed in. Look, it just fed in to everything you've done and everything you've become. It was really the origin point, right, of everything you created.
It's crazy. I go back and read those things sometimes, and they're pretty good actually for a 10th grader to write or whoever it was. But I go back and I'm like, it really is funny. I say this with no irony, and I say it with just earnestly. What luck.
I wonder what guides you used to write, because I wonder if I read them and used them, because I was heavy into game facts. I even contributed the cheats for Hitman 2
Oh, nice.
on Xbox, because I was able to kind of look into the code, and I was like, oh, here are just the cheat codes. I can just submit them into game facts. Like,
You guys want to know a secret about a little secret? I ran IGN cheats when I was younger. So when I joined IGN as an editor in 2007, I was the associate editor of IGN Guides. My mornings would be spent uploading cheats to IGN cheats, and then my afternoons would be spent writing strategy guides. This only lasted for a few months because then we hired someone behind me, and then they were stuck with IGN cheats. But all we used to do is go to GameFAQs and just see their updates, and then just take the codes and put them on IGN. And we would get a bunch of submissions, but usually they would just have them, or we would get the games early. I fucking hated doing that.
Yeah,
that was the worst. So I was always grateful when people like you would submit the cheats. But as far as guides are concerned, I would just sit there and write. And the games, I would do a lot of NES and SNES stuff.
Awesome.
That was pretty much what I was into. I didn't write a modern guide really until I started working for IGN. So
I feel like Lilymo Games is also a pretty good side quest too. So I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. Lilymo. Here's the thing about Lilymo, and it's just true, is that it doesn't get nearly enough of my time or energy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take any money out of it, so I don't feel that obligated to be day to day or even week to week with it, because I'm not asking anything out of it. In fact, I think it frankly benefits a great deal for my presence, not so much as my writing, but my marketing. Sacred Symbols is a built-in marketing tool. Yep. But even with those built-in marketing tools, the games vacillate. Hebroxia 2, I think, is probably around 20,000 sold, but Super Perils of Baking is, I think, 5,000. So that's why I always tell people, like, imagine how bad games do when they have no marketing and no platform to sell themselves from.
Sure.
And so we're working on a few games, and Barry's updating some of the old games. But the reality is and what's so tough about it is that if I was taking 49% of the gross profit, which was what I'd be owed in my ownership stake, we wouldn't exist. So it's this weird dance where we want to just get to the next game. And hopefully we always think the next game will be the one that blows up. The next game will be the one that blows up. But we just want to make that next game. But it's been a lot of fun. And I'm very grateful to Barry because he does all the work. I mean, I say that all the time. Like, without Barry, there is no Lilymo games. I get it like at the last 5%. It's like, okay, we got to get a script, trophies, and marketing. It's like, okay, but he did all of the work. So anyway, and we have few cool things. And people are asking about our role-playing game. It's very much in development, but it's not going as fast as I thought it was going to go, or that we all thought it was going to go. So I wouldn't expect to see it this year.
But it kind of reminds me of Donkey and his Big Mode publisher.
Right? Why were people so mad about that?
I have no fucking idea. I have no idea.
It's jealousy, I think, dude. To be perfectly honest,
I don't know if you wanted to spin off into a rant about that, but I have no idea why people are so mad. Or it feels almost like jealousy. I don't know.
I think so. I think it is.
I don't get it. Like, Daniel Dwyer did like a whole video like opining over it. And I was like what is wrong?
It's people who are like stay in your lane. Like you're not supposed to be doing this. You do this other thing, and it's like people can do more than one thing. It always kind of bothered me, like whenever whenever a celebrity would like share like a person like a political opinion or something, and it's like stick to acting, and it's like, well,
right? Like, don't be a human.
Like, I mean, you can. It's fine to disagree with it, like whatever. But like, everyone's allowed to do other things.
You're an actor, not a person.
Yeah.
You can't feel.
What always bothers me about that too is like when if like some random celebrity like shares a political opinion they agree with, they'll signal boost it to the top, and they won't have that same criticism.
Totally.
That always infuriates me. I hate that.
Totally. It's always the ones that you agree with that are totally fine. So,
yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Right. Absolutely.
Let him cook.
Yeah, exactly.
I will admit that it annoys me that I know even the politics of so many people when I didn't know previously.
That's true, yeah. That's
like,
Twitter, though.
Dude, why is John Cusack blocked me on Twitter? We'll never know. Like,
John Cusack blocked me on Twitter too.
Yeah, John Cusack apparently blocks everyone. And I said before, Chuck Woolery was the other one, and I like actually lobbied to get unblocked by Chuck Woolery because it bothered me so much.
That's hard.
He blocked me too. Yeah.
Samwise.
Yeah, it's
Samwise. What's his name? Samwise from Lord of the Rings. Sean Astin has me blocked.
Really?
What? You know why though? Is because like when his character, I mean, spoilers for Stranger Things. I mean, it's been a minute.
Oh yeah. I forgot he was in
when his character died in Stranger Things, I laughed and I said like he definitely deserved it. That's such a dumb way to die.
That was a bad character.
and like, and he blocked me after that. I don't know if that was coincidental, but like that seems like really funny.
Dude, Mikey from Goonies blocked you.
That's
a win in anybody's game book. That is a win in any like that. What? That's amazing. Chuck Woolery knows who you are, Carl. That's a win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm inviting anybody famous that I admire to block me. I would love it.
Why can't I remember his name? I've talked about it on the show in the past because people were like amazed by it. It's the guy from Parks and Rec, the funny guy who's in Mario. Oh, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
Not only did Chris Pratt follow me on Twitter, but I've DM'd with Chris Pratt. And then
what?
And then randomly he unfollowed me one day. Yeah, because Chris Pratt was like following like 350 people, including me. This was a few years ago, and so I DM'd him because you could DM. I followed him, and I was like, I think you're probably following me on accident, but it's pretty cool that you're following me. He's like, no, I'm not following you on accident. I think you're really funny, something like that. I fucking shit you not.
Dude,
then what I think happened was that his people probably got like, you can't be following this guy on Twitter, interacting with this guy on Twitter.
He's Mario. He's into games media now.
Yeah,
so. He's Mario.
Oh yeah. That's probably right.
Yeah.
That's I've always been curious about that too, because like I have Hugh Laurie follows me.
Oh wow!
And I have been too terrified to say anything because I feel like it's definitely a mistake.
No, do it, Chris. Do it.
And I don't want to lose it.
Imagine he listens to Sacred Symbols or watches Chris Reagan on YouTube. I think that would be amazing. I love it.
I'm sure he does.
I love Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry. I love those guys.
I have the most bizarre followers. Well, I have AOC following me, which is also like already bizarre. You know,
that is bizarre.
Yeah,
you got to interview her. She apparently plays games, doesn't she? Doesn't she play
League of Legends? We've talked in the past about doing something together. We've just never.
That's interesting.
It pisses me off that Hassan Piker on Twitch was able to get her like on Twitch, because I was fucking talking to her first before Hassan did. You know, so
and he slid in.
Oh well.
Yeah, he slid in. You know, what the fuck. Anyways,
all right, my friends. Well, let's move on to the next topic. That was fun. That was an awesome topic.
Thank you.
And if we feel like we're going too long, I can cut mine off at the end. Chris, let's go to yours next. I want to talk about this one. I liked this. I'm into this topic because it's. I think there's a lot to say about it. So talk to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this as I've started to kind of like delve into some older games, namely like around the 360 era, like that time, because for some reason, well, not for some reason, obviously Microsoft wants those titles backwards compatible, but like a lot of these titles have been coming back, and I was like, oh, Gears of War 2, like the native version of Gears of War 2 runs at 60 frames 4K. Oh, hell yeah. And I was playing, I was like, wow, this is great. And then it got me thinking about that period of time and like just the quantum leap, not even just in technology from the generation prior to that generation, but just the fundamental recontextualization of our relationships with our consoles. Mm-hmm. And how that was just such a fundamental shift, and how I don't know if we'll ever see something that drastic ever again from generation to generation. And just like little things, like, because I think to the PS2 and the Xbox, and I'm like, those are very fond. I'm very fond of those machines. Like, those are like obviously like tons of great experiences on there, but they're also like very, very clearly games machines. You know, those are, you play a game on it. Maybe you put a DVD into it. That was the big thing. That was like the big revolutionary thing about those consoles at that time, was that, okay, here's a DVD and you can watch it. And it's like, it's a cheap DVD player. Isn't that cool? It's like, yeah, it is. And then, you know, one generation later, the very next machine, here's an internet browser in your machine. Here is, you can download video games directly from the internet now. Here is a social media application basically installed in the very framework of this machine. This machine will replace your cable box. This is how you will engage with all of your linear media from now on, probably. This machine will connect you by default to anybody that you want to connect with. This machine is, you know, wireless controllers out the box. Like all of these things, like it's such a quantum leap. When I was thinking about it, I was like, this is a crazy time. And at first I thought it might have been nostalgia, because that was the time that I was in high school. And obviously that was like my big, like that was when I was first conscious of, you know, the gaming landscape and like what things meant and what things did and you know, the companies and the wars between them. So I was thinking like, oh, maybe it's just like reflecting on, you know, how much fun I had in that time and how magical it seemed. because surely like maybe the leap from 2D to 3D, that was probably like a massive leap too. And then I thought like, not really, because we're still engaging with the machine in the same exact way. The games are different. The games are fundamentally different. Absolutely. But we still ultimately engage with a PS1 in the same way that we engage with an NES. We turn the machine on, we play the game, we put it down, we do other things. And now it's like, I don't know where I would be without my console, sincerely, because it's like, it's my main media hub. It's a social network. It was the first time that we had seen like widely acceptable, like downloadable titles, just like independent games exploded, like Limbo, like Explosion Man, like all of these like really early.
It was the first time you really could truly have them at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about it, I was like, this is kind of an insane period in time. And then I thought about the consoles that came after, and then I thought how the PS4 technically did less than the PS3 did. Not that it was like a big sacrifice, you know. There was like, you know, there were certain things about it that were obviously superior. It's obviously a better machine.
No printer support.
Yeah, but
they removed the printer support.
Even the very idea that was even remotely possible, like that's crazy. That's so insane. Even I remember plugging my iPod into the 360 and like playing music over a game, and I was like, this is fucking crazy.
I love doing that. That was best.
It was, yeah, and now we like everything that we like about a modern console comes from that era. It's not new. It's just like That's this true. Like it's just this very, very slow iterative continuation of what was done for that generation. And we're 2 generations apart from that specific period in time, and like still we haven't seen a fundamental shift in the way that we engage with these machines since then. And I would argue that we probably never will again. I feel like once you introduce the internet to a machine as a default, like that's a genie that cannot be overshadowed when you get that out of the box. Like that is fundamental. There's probably, and some people say like, oh, you know, well, PSVR, you know, and it's like, that's cool, but VR existed already.
Sure.
We've had the Oculus. So like it wasn't, PSVR wasn't new necessarily in the sense that like VR was like this new thing. It was like, but I'll tell you one thing, for video games, like absolutely, especially in the console space, jumping into a party was new.
Crazy.
You know, all of these things were new, like streaming Netflix to a machine, the machine you played games on. And I was just thinking about this, like, this is a fascinating period in time that will probably never happen again.
Yeah, it's very well said.
I was just enamored by that thought, and I like got off on a tangent just by myself, just thinking about all this.
Well, let's get into some tangents together here. Gene, where does your mind go here?
I always felt a little bit responsible for the Xbox One's shift into TV, because I used to buy a lot of fucking TV shows on the Xbox 360. You know, I bought the entire run of South Park, and I owned the entire catalog of South Park on my Xbox 360, and I used to watch that with my ex-fiance, and like it would just be the best. We used to watch like Lost on the Xbox 360 because we would just buy the Xbox 360 version of like these TV shows.
That's a baller move, Gene.
Yeah. And
those
so
two things especially.
Yeah, so when Xbox One really went to TV, I was just like, oh fuck, man! Like, where was I part of the statistics that Don Matrick was looking at, and be like, boom, that's it. People love this shit. You know?
Meanwhile, you were just trying to impress Miss Honolulu.
That's it. I was like, look at my Xbox and look at how much South Park it has on it. You know, like. But it's absolutely it actually changed the game. You know, like Xbox Live, especially because I was an Xbox 360 guy during that whole generation. I think a lot of people were, because the PS3 kind of took a while to find itself until I guess Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, and that's when I got the PS3 finally. Mm-hmm. But you know, the fact that you could just jump into a party like Halo 3, you know, like just felt like this community that you just live in, you know, and Xbox Live Arcade, like, you know, like I remember when Geometry Wars came out, and I was like, holy shit, this game rules. And
yeah, that game was awesome.
Geometry Wars is fantastic, but even just like demos and stuff, just being able to demos. Like I remember and demos weren't new. Like I remember getting demos in like magazines,
right?
Like,
exactly,
on like discs, and but I remember the BioShock demo came out, and Bioshock was something that I was really looking forward to because I was like really the visuals of the teaser trailers really struck me, and I was like, this is amazing. Like whatever this is, I'm totally down about it. And the demo came out one day, and I remember like, wait, I can just download this right now and play it. It's so funny saying that now because it's so obvious. Like it's
it's also the first generation with hard drives too, right? So
well, the original Xbox had a hard drive.
Well, yeah, it did.
But you're right. Like generally, like throughout the entire, it was just things that we take for granted today that we still do regularly. That's where that all started. And I just think that was the first generation that really like fundamentally changed our relationship with our machines. Like because every generation previously was just this is a games machine, this is a game machine. Maybe like the PS2 and the Xbox, obviously DVD. You know, like you could watch a movie, but it's such a different landscape.
I do think Chris is right in that it hasn't really changed that much. You know, I feel like maybe the only other console that might have done something similar is the Steam Deck. And that's just by virtue of just being a computer. That's just what it is, you know, in like a different form factor. You know?
It's because I think about like the PS4 and the Xbox One and even the PS5, and I'm like, there's some pretty big leaps there, technologically speaking, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like the SSD is amazing, and the lack of, you know, the ability to kind of like bypass loading altogether is like really, really cool. It's definitely like a great way to experience a game, but it doesn't fundamentally shift our interactions. Like the console, like the console's place in your life shifted at the PS3, at the Xbox 360, and it never shifted again ever. It just got stronger, got faster, and I'm just wondering. I'm curious, like if we'll ever see like a pound for pound, like one generation to the next, if we'll ever see something that fundamentally different from what preceded it again. And I really don't think we will.
No,
I think it's cool that
I
think it's cool that you mentioned, Chris, playing music, CD music as you're playing games. Because I used to do that with the PlayStation 1. I used to do that with Warhawk. I used to do that with Warhawk and Wipeout, where you could just like take the disc out and put your own fucking CD in there, and then you could just like listen to that track and like just play on the same stage. And I was like, yeah, this shit rules, you know?
So good.
It's awesome.
And then you can do that with the Xbox 360. And now the only thing I really do with my PS5 is I'm streaming Apple Music, listening to my own music as I'm playing like Destiny 2 or something. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
But it's that same experience. I do the same thing.
I play back in 2008. You know, I'm sorry.
I play my Spotify over my game sometimes. Like absolutely, and it's I don't know. It's just and I really am curious to get your guys' perspective on it because I know you're older than I am, and I have wondered, like, is this just, you know, a rose tinted vision of that particular time in my life where I just had very, very little to worry about, and this was just like a really magical time. Because you guys saw, you know, 2D to 3D. And, and I'm sure that was a massive thing too. But I was wondering, like, am I just wrong?
No, you're not.
Like,
you're not wrong at all, in my opinion. No, I'm actually curious to see what Dagan has to say about this too. But I would think that we did see the transition from 2D to 3D, but the machines stayed the same. Like the only things that, like, sometimes even the format stayed the same. Like when you think about Nintendo, just never abandoning controls, really having a hard time abandoning the D-pad, having a really hard time getting two sticks on your. I mean, they were always far behind in that regard, but that was, I agree with you, and I have a lot to say about this, but I want to hear what Dagan has to say about this leap as well.
Yeah, this is a pretty fascinating topic. I love this. And, you know, it's really just interesting for me to talk about the evolution of video games in general. I mean, I've been there since very early on. So to give you guys a little bit of history with my own bit of gaming or my own lifetime of gaming, you know, I started with the Atari 2600 in the late 70s, early 80s, and was a very avid gamer up through the 8-bit, 16-bit era, all the way through PS1. I was, you know, I played nearly every landmark title. I didn't miss a beat. I feel like I played every essential game. And it wasn't until the PS2 era where my gaming tapered off and I became much more of a casual gamer. Now, I remember with the PS2, what was that, 2000? I was there day one-ish to purchase the console. I still had that same level of excitement. I wasn't married yet. I was still a bachelor, right? It was a few years before I got married. But my gaming had taken a backseat to just whatever, life, being in my 20s, whatever it was at the time. And I remember thinking back to that era, there were probably 4 or 5 titles that I devoured. I remember what they are specifically, and that was the extent of it. And honestly, the DVD player thing was really exciting. And I remember thinking back then, I had no money back then, right? I was still kind of making my way in my career very early on. And I remember thinking, like a lot of us did, right? Like I would go to like PC Richards or whatever, Best Buy, whatever electronic stores there were, and being like, seriously, this thing is cheaper than a standalone DVD player, and it's a gaming like it didn't make any sense, but I was like, okay, like I guess I'll buy one before they find out this is a huge mistake or whatever. I really remember feeling like that. Like this seems unfair.
This is a very brilliant.
You don't know better or whatever.
It was brilliant.
Right? The PS3 came in. This was actually really funny, and I'm almost kind of embarrassed to admit it. I didn't really understand the full extent of the evolution until cut to me and Colin started Knockback in 2017, 2018. And I got to go in and retroactively explore a lot of these PS3 games, some PS2 as well, but a lot of PS3 games. Now I understand the full breadth of how things evolved, especially in terms of games. But it's interesting because with PS3, that's when my gaming really became, it really wasn't a part of my life anymore. And I remember the PS3 was out for a couple of years. And I think it was in 2008. It was my birthday. I was in the mall with my wife and I saw it and I was like, I should get this. Like, I feel like I'm out of touch and I think it would be fun to get back into this. Now, I bought it thinking it was still backwards compatible with the PS2 and it wasn't. They already removed that. So that was already long since passed. So I remember being initially disappointed, hearing that, getting it home and hearing that, dude, I didn't play a game on the PS3 until after the PlayStation 4 came out. Mm-hmm. And I got the PS4 2 years late. I got my PS4 in 2017. So my PS3 was a Blu-ray player. That's all I used it for 4 years. I think I bought and played Ultra Street Fighter 4 on the PS3. Oh, yeah. That was the only title I was playing from the advent of getting that system. So now going back, it's so interesting because for me, just from a game title perspective, which is really kind of my bent, like that's really where I go. Like for me, just give me the games. I'm less concerned with the technical aspects of the systems. I'm just really, I just want to play the games. I don't know if that's the artist and the animator in me or what, but going back now and have discovered all these games in the last 5 years, BioShock Infinite, The Last of Us, I fell in love with Far Cry 3, Dead Space, Arkham Asylum, the Uncharted games. These are like, I don't even know if we didn't start Knockback, I'm not even sure I still would have played these games. It really kind of reverted me back into being a proper gamer. And I still have a big backlog to discover. The only other thing I'll say is, and 2 out of 3 of these people that I'm talking to right here don't know this, I still have never owned or played a single Xbox system from the beginning. And we had to do Halo CE for Knockback,
yeah.
And I played on Steam.
I watched that episode, yeah.
So, and I fell in love with Halo, by the way, much to, which I'm sure made Chris happy.
Did, yeah.
I loved it. But and I still have never played or owned a micro. I do have Colin's original Xbox somewhere in a Rubbermaid container, but I still never owned, I never got into the Microsoft consoles. And that's kind of my latest gap or feeling like maybe I'm missing out, because I'm not anti-Microsoft by any means. I mean, I'm very pro. I'm an old anime manga head. I'm very pro Japanese everything. I mean, it's a very Jap animation thing to say, but I'm 49 years old. You know what I mean? You have to forgive me. Yeah. You have to forgive the ancient nature of, but that's one thing that I'm flirting with going back in now, is discovering all of that Xbox content that I never was able to get into. But I love it. It's so funny talking about video game evolution, because on one hand, it's nostalgic and interesting and something joyful. And on the other hand, I'm really intimidated by it because I think I missed out on so much. And I feel like no matter how fast I run, I'm never going to be able to catch up. So, and maybe that's a midlife crisis. My whole life is a midlife crisis right now. You guys have to forgive me, but I feel like I have to choose the titles or the software companies or the consoles that I retroactively visit now, because I can't catch up on everything. So you got to it's like trying to watch One Piece or an anime that you just missed. It's like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But should that deter you from getting involved?
Yeah, sure. Dustin's trying. He's trying to catch up on One Piece.
He really is trying.
He's never going to do it.
He was telling me about that. It's bold. That's bold.
So I think this is a great topic, and I agree with your thesis, Chris, that was the biggest jump. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. You know what it reminds me of is 2005. I'm a junior at Northeastern. My roommate, good friend of mine, still to this day, Doug, came home with a big nerd, big gamer. He was actually the guy I lived with, where I told you I moved in with him, and he was using my Zelda 2 game facts guide when I moved in with him, like not knowing that I wrote it. And that was like, we became very fast friends. We used to go to Jets Patriots games and Red Sox Yankee games, and we had a great relationship. He was a big Xbox guy, and he bought an Xbox 360 when it came out. And I was very much at that point still very much Nintendo fanboy, and in PlayStation world as well. And I had no interest in it. I had no money, and I was waiting for PS3. Little did we know the next year PS3 would come out, and I would have no chance of affording it because it was $600. But we didn't know that at the time, so I was sitting pat. And he was showing me this machine, and I remember him playing. It was like King Kong, I think, and
yeah.
And I think he had like NCAA football or something like that, which might have even been a last gen version of the game. But he was showing me this machine, and I was like, I was fascinated by it for a lot of reasons. The removable hard drive, I was like, what? Like, what is this? But it also takes memory cards. You can have a wireless controller or a wired controller, which I thought was cool, and I wish PlayStation did that as well. They technically did, but they weren't built like the same. They didn't have the same construction, and I hated the fucking 6-axis controller especially. And I remember the biggest thing that and there was achievements, which I didn't get into trophies until later. It didn't sync with me at that time, but I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then it didn't have Wi-Fi, which I thought was interesting, and that's a move. I think that was a mistake. They obviously had a Wi-Fi adapter and all the rest. And what I remember most thinking about it was, so the machine just kind of works without a game in it. And I was thinking backwards, because even at that early time, there was no media services on Xbox 360, and PS3 didn't have media services either. I mean, it was even later than Xbox 360. But there was this idea where it's like, okay, you turned on an NES without a cartridge in it, it would just give you a blank screen. You turn on an SNES without a cartridge in it, blank screen. N64 memory card like management, GameCube memory card management, Wii virtual console, and so on and so forth. You have all these different things, and it gets a bit crazier and crazier. Pre-Wii, we're getting into this area where it's like, okay, so now there's a storefront and Xbox Live, which a lot of people don't remember, but Xbox Live Arcade began as a disc on Xbox, and you would put it in and buy games off of it. It was like it was some weird system. And then it went all digital. So I was like, that's really interesting. And so that's what I really remember about it, is my friend Doug, and just being like, wow, so it's a machine that just kind of lives without games in it. And that was a paradigm shift, because we had DVD players with PS2 and all the rest, but we had nothing like this. And I think the original Xbox was kind of similar in some way, like a prototype of that, where you could do a few things on it when you turned it on, mess around on Xbox Live, starting in 2002. And that's what I wanted to say, and I underlined it in my notes, is that I personally believe, and I've long said, and I've said it openly on all of the shows, is that Microsoft doesn't get enough credit in shifting the entire paradigm. Specifically with the original Xbox, when they put the Ethernet cable only onto it, and that was considered crazy. I remember reading that and people being like, that is insane. And they were like, no, it is absolutely necessary to the fidelity of online play and all these things. And then achievements and Xbox Live and all of these things really come from them. And I don't think that they've done a great job I think demonstrably done a great job with games. That's why I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but it's like when you say you missed out on a lot of Xbox things, it's like, you really didn't. I mean, You missed out on Halo. You missed out on Gears of War and Fable. But you could catch up on that. You could probably spend. I mean this. If you like, it was like your full-time job. You could probably catch up on everything you've missed from Xbox 360 in a few months.
Yeah, 100%.
And,
yeah. It wouldn't be that difficult. The only thing that's gone really is the contextual experience of seeing that machine kind of come into its own at that time, because that was like a very special time for sure. But you could catch up on like the Gears trilogy is available in some capacity, I'm sure.
It's all backwards compatible. You could just buy it. Well, it's all on Game Pass. So you can just
and by the way,
play it.
Holds up very well. Like shockingly
so
well. Actually,
those games still fucking rule.
I was actually thrown off by how well those games. Like, because I remember thinking, like, I was going back to Gears 2, and I was like, oh yeah, I have nostalgia for this. I was expecting it to be a lot clunkier than it was, and I'm like, this plays indistinguishably from like a modern title.
Mm-hmm. So
I loved Gears. Gears was 2006, right? The fall of 2006. I remember my friend Corey back on Long Island was the first person I knew that had it, and I was playing online and getting just destroyed, and it was annoying him so much because I was making him look like a fucking fool. I had no idea what I was doing.
I was horrible at the online on that, but the single player stuff was great.
But that was revolutionary too. I'm like, holy shit, because I remember playing SOCOM at friends' houses. I had the adapter on PS2, but I brought it back because I couldn't get it to work. And so just the very idea, not being on a PC, but playing games online, it was definitely a seminal shift. Because when you brought this topic up, Chris, I was thinking about it. Like, how would I describe things? And it's like, there's a segue from, and it happens all in 2D and then all in 3D. So 2D is the natural plane in the 70s and into the 80s. The plane gets deeper. There might be parallax scrolling, more textures, and so on and so forth, better sprites, bigger sprites, more movements, more animations. It all stays in 2D. Then there's a segue to 3D, and like, how would you really describe it? N64, 3D, kind of empty, vacant. PS1, a little bit more robust, but not as broad. And then in PS2, it's like 3D now has scope and texture. And I think if there's anything that the PS3 and 360 era brought, it was now realism. I think for the first time, I looked at games, and I still look back at them and think like, this is now getting there. As opposed to the way I felt about when I played Metal Gear Solid 1 in 1998 in 9th grade. I was like, this is the realest thing I have ever seen. And now I look back at it, I'm like, that looks like absolute shit. I don't know why I thought that. It looks like absolute shit. PS2, a little bit more. Like when Onimusha was re-released in 2019, I went back and played that on PS4. And I'm like, it's good. It's getting there. Stiff camera, really close to the character. It's not PS3. When you go back and look at, say, Uncharted 2, that's when I'm like, it's pretty good, and it actually holds up and stands. So I think there's that visual and realistic element too that we're never. It's almost. I'm playing Uncharted 4 right now for Knockback. I'll just say that it's like a little bit of a spoiler, I guess. Spoilers. And I played it before in the past, but I'm playing it and I'm like, you know what? It almost looks too good to where it actually comes off as a little goofy. Like now, actually, I want it to be like more stylized because it actually like Drake looks like a fucking maniac jumping around. The way he does and stuff because it looks too good.
Yeah.
So it's like those are the problems we're dealing with now. I'm sorry. Go.
No, I was gonna say like I feel the same way about that generation too. Like I mean even looking at Dead Space, which is obviously the remake's out today. I'm so stoked. I
can't wait to play it. I can't wait to get off this podcast and play that game.
Yeah,
we're all gonna do the same thing. I think
it's the main thing I'm really excited about today, especially after getting my bell rung this morning. But I think. Yeah, I remember thinking like, oh man, this remake looks really, really good. And then I went back to the original Dead Space and I was like, this still looks really
good.
Like this it's definitely like not the same, but like this looks entirely, this doesn't look even remotely bad to me. Like it looks pretty damn good still. And I feel like that was another thing where like, I feel like that generation, even just graphically and fidelity wise, like we did get to a point where it's just good. Like it's not because like PS2 and PS1 especially aged pretty horribly. Like there's still games that I really, really love on there, and I think the angular like limitations of like Crash Bandicoot added a lot to his charm that like I don't even think it necessarily like translated that well into like high fidelity models. But like Dead Space looks great still. Gears of War 3 is stunning to look at still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And just like all of these like experiences. And even some of the ones that look a little rough, like Skyrim's never been like a great graphical like showcase necessarily. But like playing Skyrim, even just unmodded, not Ultimate Edition, it's a pretty beautiful game still sometimes. Like, especially that skybox and like the mountain ranges. Sometimes you'll just get this feeling like this looks really great.
Yeah.
Fucking Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on those systems too, you know?
You're right.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 1.
Red Dead Redemption 1, hell yeah.
And like all these games, like they look really good. Like they don't look as deep. They don't look, definitely not as photoreal, but they don't look so bad that it matters. And it's like, that's a very interesting thing because now we're at the point where like we can make anything look as good as we need to. And so it's not really that impressive to me. Like PS5 games look great largely because of their resolution and fidelity. Mm-hmm. But like graphically, I feel like, you know, I don't know if we've really boosted much from the PS4 necessarily. Like I think I still look at PS4 games and I'm like, that looks great. It's not as sharp, but like it still looks fucking wonderful.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's just an interesting, I don't know, it's just what an interesting time that was. Not only just for the technology of what we could do with games at that time, but just like, again, just our relationship with these machines. And I think it's just such an interesting, it is a flashpoint. And there's like we'll never revert from that. I think maybe at some point, I'm sure in the future, consoles will look very, very different than they look now. But never from one generation to the next like that will we ever see anything like this again. I'm really confident in that.
I think you're right, Chris. I mean, I can't even imagine like a giant step. What giant step could possibly be taken to drive another evolution that drastic? I can't even think what that would be.
Getting rid of the machine, I think, is probably the only other thing that's going to, like the machine not being a thing anymore is maybe the only other massive shift that will happen now at some point. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, to be honest. But I think that will happen. I mean, it's already happening. It's not working very well. I mean, PlayStation Now isn't the best thing in the world. It wasn't. On Live, I think On Live was just too early. Google couldn't make it work.
I forgot. On Live is such an interesting. There's so many stories about like people being just way too early to the party. I think a lot about Microsoft and how like they made that tablet computer before most people had laptops.
And I'm dude, there are. I think we might have talked about this. Like, there is I gotta find it. There's a compilation. I think a website of like these pre.com companies. Pre.com, I'm sorry, bust companies. So like 90s, 95, 96, 97, 98. And it's crazy. It's companies like, our idea is that you tell us to come pick you up and then we bring you where you put in to the computer where you want to go. We go grocery shopping for you. It's like, yeah, that was brilliant. You were just too early. You know, the infrastructure wasn't there, and it's probably absolutely maddening because the legitimate reality is that there were these companies doing Uber in the 90s, doing, you know, Amazon style grocery shopping and all that. And it's
the ubiquity and ease that wasn't there before. Like now that like we have supercomputers in our pockets, it's a lot easier.
This whole conversation reminds me of my favorite quote from the Jim Carrey film, The Cable Guy, where he, during the final battle on the satellite dish, if you guys remember the movie.
Oh yeah,
I do.
He screams, "The future is now. Soon every American home will integrate their television, phone, and computer. You'll be able to visit the Louvre on one channel or watch female wrestling on another. You can do your shopping at home or play Mortal Kombat with a friend from Vietnam."
That is crazy.
And this movie came out in 1996. He said that in 1996, man.
Wow,
that's crazy.
There's like a really fascinating interview with David Bowie that's like very, very similar.
Right.
Yeah, like it is an amazing interview because David Bowie's an alien. I'm convinced. Like, there's some weird, like he's like on another plane.
He was on it, man. He knew the internet right away. Like I remember, like Yahoo used to have a magazine, and like David Bowie appeared regularly, and he would like say all this shit about the internet that all came true about music distribution and everything. It was crazy, you know?
It
was crazy.
It's an amazing interview. If anybody listening hasn't watched that interview, I highly, highly recommend it.
I haven't seen that.
It's so good.
It is amazing and like somewhat eerie because it's just so on point in such a way that there's no reason why he should have a remote amount of intuition about any of this.
Yeah, but he nailed it. Like he just traveled from like 2010 and then went back to like 1993 and it was like, hey, this shit is gonna happen. Like,
So I feel
real
similar.
soon.
Like they're just some auteurs and artists who are just like it's really difficult to explain like why it is they are so in tune with like shit that they have no reason to. I feel like Kojima is like on like somewhere around that too, where it's like just like
That's true. That's
like,
true.
Metal Gear Solid 2 and how like just the word meme at all being used in that game is just crazy.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah, it's
Kojima's a
incredible.
great one.
It's incredible. Wow, David Bowie's been come up a few times lately on the
He
different
has.
shows.
Yes, I remember that in recent episodes too, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, David Bowie rules. And I'm convinced that like I'm still convinced that everything went to shit since he died.
I don't think he's dead.
Well, there's that too.
Dude, I love the song Modern Love. Everyone loves that song. But my favorite, my low-key favorite part of that song, that David Bowie song Modern Love, is in the beginning when he's like, I know when to go out. I know when to stay in, get things done. Like you have to like listen to it, like he's saying it in the background. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Colin,
Yeah.
I have something you will absolutely love. I'll send it to you after the show.
Okay.
It's this Saturday Night Live like promo thing from like the 90s. And it's Jerry Seinfeld and David Bowie, and they're making,
Oh my god!
And they're making. Have you seen this?
No, so that was like the lineup. Like the actor was Jerry.
Yeah, it was
Jerry
with the
and
musical. With the musical guest, and it was. It's the funny because it's just Jerry Seinfeld and David Bowie making small talk with each other, and it's like Jerry Seinfeld goes like, "So, you gonna sing Changes?" And it is the funniest. It is one of the funniest things I've ever fucking seen.
Comedians in cars, but with David Bowie, that would have been amazing.
That's too bad that didn't happen. We love that show.
Yeah.
All right. Good topic.
Great topic.
I always love talking about games. Obviously, that's where all of our heritage is. All right, Dave, let's move on to you for a very timely topic. I'm excited to talk about this because I have a lot to say.
Yeah, this is a bit timely one. Listen, as of the time we're having this conversation, only 2 weeks out. By the time you guys hear, we'll be even a little closer. I want to talk to you guys about Valentine's Day. It's on my mind, obviously, right? I have a family, I have a wifey. A lot of us have significant others out there. And I want to get this panel's take, especially because here's the thing about Valentine's Day that we all know, right? We have this ancient conflict dating back however many decades, centuries, whatever, of the anti-Valentine's Day contingent versus the pro-Valentine's Day contingent, right? The people that abhor a Valentine's Day, they won't have anything to do with it. They think it's the worst thing ever, versus the people that go in for Valentine's Day and embrace it and everything like that. I get it. First of all, I think I love that argument. I think it's divisive. I think we're in for an eternal debate. I don't think that debate's ever going to go away. I don't know. I'm interested to know how the lines are drawn up. Like, is it 50-50? For against, is it 60-40? I don't.
I'm gonna look it up. Maybe Gallup. This seems like something Gallup might have pulled. I'll look it up while you're talking.
That data must exist, right? But that's fine. And listen, I kind of understand both sides. You know, I don't want to be too diplomatic here, but I understand being pro and just saying, okay, let's just enjoy. Let's not get too deep. I totally understand the cynical side. You know, Valentine's Day is like the other big holidays. It's, you know, made by the Targets of the world and the Godivas of the world and the American Greetings and Hallmarks of the world in order to drive the almighty dollar, right? It's just another money-making scheme like Christmas. It's too commercial. That's fine. Here's my bone of contention with Valentine's Day. The deep, deep lack of creativity in all aspects, in the marketing, in the imagery and all that kind of stuff, but especially just with the gift giving, like the box of chocolates and flowers thing and hearts on insert item here object, right? It's so tired. I'm so tired of it. Now I've been around. I'm almost an antique, right? I'm a year away from becoming an antique. So I know I've been subjected to this crap for a long time. So I'm just, you know, I'm weary of it, you know. But, and here's the thing, I could trumpet about this all day with my chest puffed out and everything like that. My wife happens to love chocolates and flowers. Like, she doesn't want anything else. And maybe she would want diamonds every Valentine's Day if I could afford that. Other than that, she goes in for the chocolate flowers. She's perfectly content. Chocolate covered strawberries, just kind of I don't get her like Hershey Kisses from the supermarket. Go to Godiva, get the chocolate covered strawberries. Everybody's happy. It's fine. Right. But even then, I'm sort of in this mode of, come on, we're supposed to be expressing our love here. So for the contingent that's going in for Valentine's Day, or at least grudgingly going along with it and giving gifts and all of that, can't we inject just a little bit of creativity? How do we do that? How do we go about doing that? And also, as a parting shot, before I toss it over to you guys for your takes, and listen, I don't mean to criticize. We have a listener, an LSM fan, and a friend of mine who I know, at least one, who works at American Greetings in Ohio as an illustrator. And he's awesome and he's awesomely talented. So I'm not disparaging in this way, but greeting cards are the most insanely impersonal thing. Greeting cards are terrible when you really think about it. And I think I only started really wrapping my head around this as they started to get more expensive. And I was like, but also wait, it's a canned sentiment. Now, granted, any graduation, holiday, birthday, there's hundreds to choose from. So I guess you could forgive it a little bit on that basis. You have to find something that resonates with the situation, with the relationship, whatever. But it's something created by someone else that you're paying for. It's somebody else's idea. It's somebody else's thought for, a loving quote or a sentiment of appreciation, whatever it is. I'm just horrified by the idea of greeting cards anymore. I think I gave it a pass for so long. And then I finally realized, like, this is pretty bad because it's kind of shallow. It doesn't take a lot of work.
Can I
make a greeting card? Just make
your own. Yeah. First of all, before I even say what I need to say, I'll let you know that I found data for you. This comes from YouGov. Right. This comes from YouGov, actually a fairly reputable source as polling goes.
Okay.
Is Valentine's Day even a real holiday? By 58% to 30%, it says. People say Valentine's Day does not qualify as a real special occasion, with men and women in agreement on the insignificance of the holiday. Perhaps that is a good thing, as 48% of women and 23% of men say that they have felt disappointed by a romantic partner not doing enough on Valentine's Day. So 1 in 5 men say that they have been disappointed that it could be another man, but a woman too didn't do more. And then it says all that pressure might have broader consequences. 7% of Americans say they have ended a relationship on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Man.
1 in 8 Americans have ended a relationship shortly before or shortly after the big day.
See, rejecting it out of fear because you're going to be shortchanged or forgotten, some 16 candles scenario is going to play out on Valentine's Day. That's actually sad because what you're saying is rather than be disappointed again, I'd rather just mutually agree that we shouldn't do this. I do know couples that, for instance, my age, kids, home and everything like that, for instance, don't exchange Christmas presents. And then they say, let's just save money. We'll go to Aruba in August or whatever. And then that money that we would spend on each other. So I understand the mutual decision, but let me throw it over to you and let me throw it over to you, Eugene. Where do you stand on Valentine's Day? What's your take on the whole thing?
I feel like I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to Valentine's Day. I'll play along if it's important to my partner, and if it's not, then I'm not going to be one of those 1 in 5 men who are upset that like nothing happened to me.
I can't believe that. Doesn't that seem high?
That's a little bizarre to be a man. I don't mean to be like all trad about it, right? But like, it just seems to be a little. I don't know that experience.
Yeah, me neither.
And I find that hard to be related to. Where it's like, oh, my girlfriend didn't do anything for me on Valentine's Day. Like it just seems weird. Like I don't. I not to judge anyone who's been there before. I'm sorry. It's just not something that I quite understand. It's interesting in DC. This is the fucking nerdiest. This is the fucking most Washington DC thing ever. But there is my friend does put together an anti-Valentine's Day party called the James Buchanan Memorial Party. Because President James Buchanan is the only unmarried president of the United States ever.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So Exactly. Oh, only these fucking nerds in Washington D.C. would come up with a Valentine's Day party.
Started the Civil War, but we won't get into, all of that.
There you go. 2 claims to fame.
So like, yeah, it'd just be like at this bar, like we just have pictures of James Buchanan like everywhere and everything. And it'd just be a bunch of like singles that are just there to mingle and like, I don't know, flirt or just like not flirt. Who knows? I've been dumped on Valentine's Day before.
Oh.
It was after a Boys to Men concert. I took it to a Boys to Men concert.
Oh,
I know it's exactly. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. They fucking sang. They sang "End of the Road" and everything like that. And like like she loved it, and like. And then right afterwards, she was like, I don't know if we got back together again afterwards. It was one of those things where it's like, like I'm breaking up with you. And then it's like, oh, maybe that was a mistake or whatever. It was definitely like one of those things where we like broke up like 6 to 7 times before we finally broke up.
I've been there.
That's exactly. That's a fun one.
And the worst Valentine's I ever had was again at a concert. And it was again at a 90s R&B staple. This was when I was freelancing. I quit journalism for a bit, but I still wanted to freelance and write, and I covered the Babyface concert. And Babyface, of course, penned most of Boyz II Men's greatest songs. Yes. Eric Clapton and all that too.
Wow.
And so I was just there by myself, and like I was miserable, and like this girl who I really had a huge crush on. There's actually a story on this on the Washington Post where I explained this on video, and I'll probably tweet it on Valentine's Day again. But like, there's this girl in LA that was texting me and making sure that I was okay. Like, are you feeling okay being there? And I was like, I didn't really want to tell her like my feelings because like, she's all the way in LA, and like I'm in Hawaii or whatever. And like I was in like the rafter seats, and like there's this really, really drunk woman, and she was just there by herself too. And then she was just like screaming for Babyface, and she almost fell over the fucking railing. And so I had to run over and like I grabbed her by her shirt. Like I literally saved her fucking life, like from falling over. And I was just like holding her like back and everything like that. And
you were in a full Nelson?
Yeah, and I was just making sure she was. I'm not saying she was heavy, but I'm just like saying like I just making sure that she was solid and like not gonna throw herself over or anything like that. It was that would
have been something to see at the Babyface concert.
Exactly. It was fine. She was fine. She thanked me for it, and like we just went about our separate ways. And that was like the most romance I had on that particular Valentine's Day. And and now that girl that I was texting is married, and and now I'm just here talking to you guys. So
it's so funny because Valentine's Day to me is I don't remember really having any consequential Valentine's days, to be honest with you, like good or bad. I remember going to dinner a few times and not doing anything a few times or whatever. And it really is up to the partner. I agree with you, Gene. I think you're totally right there. But I also wanted to dig just a quick aside because you brought up greeting cards. It's so funny because I bust balls about this like on the low every Christmas. When people have their Christmas cards hanging, at least in our family, they do. I think a lot of people do this where you hang up your Christmas cards. And so at Dana's house, our sister, I always go over there and she's got a bunch of them and I always make fun of them because I'm like, look, someone just put this in an envelope, didn't say anything on it. Someone just sent you this picture of their family, literally no acknowledgement of you on it, no like little note. And that bothers me in the same way it bothers you because I used to go to Paper Source all the time and get nicer greetings, in my opinion, greeting cards that are usually like just like a New Yorker style cartoon and I don't mean in political, I just mean it's like one little thing that makes you laugh and then you open it and it's just blank.
Sure.
And then believe it or not, that's where you write to the person when you're sending greeting cards. And I think people in my life know, I think Chris probably has realized it at this point, but Dagan knows for sure, is I'm a letter writer and a card writer. Like I write, when I send someone something, I write a letter to them.
You do.
And sign it and be like, here you go. Like, and I never get that shit back at all. But even with Christmas cards, it's just so funny you brought this up because Christmas cards, that's my big pet peeve. It's like, if you're going to send me a Christmas card, can you at least say, hi, hope you're well, instead of just putting it in an envelope and sending it off to me? Like personalize it for me a little bit. Yeah. And I do that every year in my Christmas cards. And I feel like there's no reciprocity.
It's no, and that is a nice compromise, what you're saying. I like that.
Yeah. Like you do the mass produced Christmas card, but you just write a little Dagan and family. Hope everything's going well. Looking forward to seeing you. Talk soon. Love, Colin.
Like it.
I love it. Chris, here's your Chris. great job this year. Here's your yearly bonus. Looking forward to another awesome year. Have a great holiday, Colin.
Yeah. I'm not sending that back. It's just a lost art, you know. Like I appreciate those cards. Like I keep all of them, and I understand. Like I like getting cards, but like I don't know. What am I gonna write? I can't be personal on a card. I can't write personally. First of all, my handwriting's not good enough to get away with it. Second, I write how I speak always, so it's just not grammatically correct. It should never be in writing. I'll probably start it out with like, "Hey yo, hope you're having a good time," and it's like, I'd rather just insult. I'd almost rather like write like, you know what I mean? Like I'd almost rather like, hope your dumbass is having a good time doing whatever it is whatever the fuck it is you're doing. I don't even remember what it is. I'm sure we talked about it at some point, but I can't be fucked. And then send that. I feel like that might be funny, but I
like that.
Yeah, but I don't think that tone translates well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Translate, like Colin's saying about the Christmas cards, right? Like once or twice a year, there's one or two Christmas cards that we get. I love this, right? They're so bad that I don't know if the person's a creative genius or if they're just really bad at sending Christmas cards. Like, for instance, the photo of the family is like horribly off kilter. And it's badly lit, and it doesn't really look like it was intended for a Christmas card. But so you're thinking, like, are they just some kind of geniuses where that's their refreshing take on the Christmas card? But it's almost always a family that you don't really associate with having that level of humor or sophistication. So you're pretty sure it's just bad, but you're hoping they're just brilliant and they're just having a piss, you know, which is hilarious. But yeah,
there's what I just remembered this. There was this one time in college, I think it was like maybe like 2014, where like there was some family who like we hadn't spoken to in a very, very long time. It was just like kind of like they're far or across the country or whatever. It's like we don't see them very often, and we don't even really like call very often. But they sent a Christmas card, and then I photoshopped me on some random like on some dad's head in some random stock photo, and I had like this like fake wife and kids, and I sent it back. And I just gave I can't remember what names. It was just I gave them like all fake names, like Tommy and Jasmine are doing well. And they called me and I'm like, "You're married?" and I had to be like, "Nah." And that was the whole thing. I never did it again because I was scared to be like called like that. But I thought it was so funny.
That is great.
This is why fake news works, man. Like the photoshops and like the AI like edits and everything. That's why this shit works, because there's still people out there who will be like, "Oh yeah, totally," you know.
I mean, I often will fool people for my amusement. I every now and again I'll be like, "Oh my god, you know, I can't believe this famous actor just died this morning," and then they'll look it up and then they'll be mad at me. I don't know why I do this. I just need something. I need something throughout the day. But Valentine's Day is like one of those things. It's like I don't know if I'm kind of with you, Colin, where I don't know if I can remember a single consequential Valentine's Day. Like I don't remember any. The only one that I remember even slightly was like a little bit after I went out and moved here, and I started sort of seeing this person in late January. And then I thought like I shouldn't do it. Like this is not law. Am I obligated to do something? Like I've known this person for like so little.
Wow, I love that.
And I don't
that's
know.
Interesting.
Like I don't know what this person. I haven't felt this person out yet. And then I remember like a couple days later, I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like a couple days later, I was like, we shouldn't.
Oh, you're one of those 12%.
I cut the whole thing out. I was like, I cannot deal with this right now.
So
like,
you avoided the Valentine's conversation just by cutting it off before.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I can't. Right. I don't have the mental bandwidth to have this war of good and evil going on in my head. I just
Yeah, that's a very curb your enthusiasm thing. Like what? I never thought of this. What do you guys think? What is the lead-in for Valentine's Day? Like it is maybe say the beginning, if you're not dating by the beginning of that year, what is it?
Yeah. I'll say this. I should not have been allowed to watch the shows that I was watching when I was as young as I was, because I do think I absorbed some level of neurosis from Seinfeld, like sincerely, Because these things will happen to me and I'll get like in my head about it for no reason. Like actually for real. It's a problem still to this day.
That's so hilarious.
It's so interesting because I guess this just never really has come up. Like one of the things I appreciate many things about Micah, but one of the things I appreciate about her is that she doesn't ask for very much. But when holidays come up, she doesn't ask for anything really. I mean, she's awesome and she can ask for way more than what she gets. But when holidays come up or like a special occasion come up, she's like, here's a hint. And I got an email from her a few days ago being like, maybe this would be nice for Valentine's Day or whatever. And it's like, she knows that I care and that I want to be thoughtful, but that it's like when we got engaged and I sat with her before we got engaged. And I'm like, listen, this ring is going to cost a lot of money. It's going to be a really nice ring. I'm not going to go and just buy it sight unseen. Yeah. We're going together. And then you're going to pick it out and we're going to do it exactly what you want. The exact rock you want, the exact band you want, everything. Absolutely. Then at a mysterious time in the future, I'll ask you to marry me with it. And that's exactly what we did but she was cool with it because she knows that that's the way I operate. You know, like there's no way I'm going out and spending that much money and then be like, and you're not going to love it.
You got to love it.
You know? So yeah, it's like I appreciate people that kind of, and that's why I appreciate with her being like, I want like she asked for some stuff for the kitchen for Christmas. And I was like, sure, that's totally great. She like we have all these tools and gadgets in there and stuff. So I appreciate that. But with Valentine's Day, here's the thing. I think it's getting a little crazy with the holidays. And I mean this in every respect. It's just, I feel like I'm not so critical of it openly because I feel like a lot of people don't have a lot of happiness in their life. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I don't have, I'm not like the happiest person in life either. But there's these distractions that come up, right? These things to look forward to, these things to celebrate. You have your girls' Valentine's Day, Galentine's Day, or whatever, your Valentine's Day with your couple or whatever. The one thing I will say is that I've never felt bad on Valentine's Day. And I don't think I never was upset that I didn't get wistful when I wasn't with someone or whatever. And I just feel like Valentine's Day and Halloween are the most capitalistic creations in terms of holidays out of all of them. Yeah. And it's like, if that's what society wants, that's totally fine. But as for me, I don't look at Valentine's Day as this important and super relevant thing. And I think you're totally right, Gene. You kind of like let the partner lead. But I've never been with someone. I've been with people that I haven't had that many girlfriends, like serious girlfriends, but the girls I've been with have all been not that into it, like into it enough where it's like, oh yeah, maybe we go out to dinner or something, but they're not expecting rose petal fucking trails and shit like that. You know what I mean? No, because they know damn well that's not happening. I mean,
I'm also expectations.
Right. I'm also like you, Colin. Is that I don't think I remember an actual Valentine's Day. And I think part of it goes back to your original point taken. I've never really done anything that special on Valentine's Day. It's always been flowers because I've never met a girl that doesn't like flowers. Flowers work every fucking time for me, right? But it's always just boring flowers, and like I usually would just take them to like Nobu, like the fancy sushi place.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The Kardashians would always go to or whatever, and like that would just be pretty much it. Like I don't think I've ever really done rose petals or whatever like that.
That's Iron Chef Morimoto's.
That's not.
Place,
I don't think
right?
that's real. To be honest with you, I don't think that's like a real thing. I think
you
that's
don't think
like
people
fake.
do that, like the rose petals.
No, if I saw anybody doing that, I would immediately cut ties with that person.
You are a fucking psychopath. Yeah.
That is a psycho. How much time do you have that you went out and collected the most pristine rose petals ever? You got the exact amount to like trace through your entire house, and then you're just sitting waiting like a fucking scarecrow. Like, I don't know. That's crazy shit to me. Like I'm all for like a nice dinner and all that. Like that's what I would do. I was like, all right, let's go. You know what? Let's go to like a crazy nice restaurant.
Yeah.
Because I want that too, to be honed.
Yeah,
like
that's great.
I want an excuse to eat duck and skirt steak and
exactly
and just like, you know what? It wasn't for me. It was.
It's a good excuse to like have a nice dinner out, which I've always appreciated. Yeah, exactly. I like that too. That's really about the
yeah.
So like I would always at the very bare minimum like make sure I have a good reservation to a good restaurant.
But now here's the thing. Do you do the reservation on Valentine's Day or the day after or before?
I would try to do on.
I always did it the day after.
Day after.
And I would always explain. I would be like, listen, there's traffic. And it's going to ruin my mood. It's going to
live in Southern California. Yeah, that's true.
Southern California is like horrible. Like on Valentine's Day, like trying to get a reservation is like a bitch too. It's like a whole thing. It's like so listen. But the day after and the day before, it never is booked. And things are cheaper kind of sometimes. So it's like, you know what? We're still gonna celebrate. But let's not do the.
It's a great strategy, very reasonable. I like it,
dude. I remember once because the reason why I made that rule is because the first one that I did was like I went to I tried to go to some sushi restaurant and it took us like there was an accident, and then it took us like 2 hours to get off the freeway, and then by the time we got there, the place was closing down. And I was like, I'm never fucking doing this again. This is awful.
That's a lesson. Yeah.
We got I don't even know what we got. We got like Buffalo Wild Wings. And I was like, this is sad, isn't it?
Oh yeah, dude.
I remember having this conversation like, isn't this sad? Like, this is why and you know what? I had the idea too. I was like, we should really do it the day after, because I feel like people, you know, it's a holiday. Holidays are always like maximum level. Like those are the most dangerous days to travel, sincerely. Like actually, because people are partying. They're you know, some people are getting into a car when they shouldn't, and then shit goes wrong, and then it's on everybody else, you know. So you know, and I remember thinking that I was like, but you know what? I didn't say anything, and now I say something. Now I'm like, we're doing the day after, because I refuse.
That's smart. That's smart. I like that.
I want my
Valentine's Day +1, as they might say in the military.
I also hate that it's on the 14th when the 15th is such a nice number. Like everything about it kind of irks me in like a really subtle way.
I'm just sick of holidays, just generally speaking. They just ruin the flow of the week, ruin the flow of the time.
I like Halloween.
We just need
Halloween a lot.
There's too many holidays at the end of the year. That's the thing, is that we need to spread them out more. I feel like Valentine's Day, I feel like we got nothing going on here. You know, we need something. Here's what has to happen. There's got to be some sort of traumatic event in America so that we celebrate in the spring, so that we celebrate it going forward in the spring.
That's terrible.
So what, we gotta have another 9/11 on 2/14. Is that what it is? Like, turn 2/14 into 9/11 too?
Like 4/21. No, that's too close to 4/20. 5/2.
Oh my God, this is terrible. You're calling the day? That's so close to Cinco de Mayo.
It is really close.
I don't know. That's a problem. Listen, this is the other thing, guys, I'm thinking of as a parting shot. The box of chocolates and bouquet of flowers thing. I think here's why it gets a pass too. I think of it almost like very recently occurred to me. It's kind of like the turkey at Thanksgiving. Like those things only come out once a year, so they never really get that. You know, it never really gets that old. You know, it's not really stale. Even if you rely on those old standbys, no one's getting a box of heart-shaped chocolates and a bouquet. Really, we don't really give flowers like we should, right?
You can get a heart-shaped pizza from Papa John's.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, dude.
Got a Papa John's, yeah.
Hey, that's romantic.
That'll be sick,
dude. If I got a heart-shaped like New York pizza, that would be like the best.
That would actually be dope. If it's like an actually good pizza, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Dude, that's sick.
That's dope as hell. I love that too.
Yeah, it's so. And Valentine's Day for me is it's a very defensive holiday. Like we said, I'm not thinking of myself at all. It's like I have to have everything set up to make sure my wife and my teenage daughter are happy, and then I'm fine. Like I don't expect anything.
Right.
I probably
There's
will
no
get
pleasure
something.
in it. Exactly. I totally understand.
I don't care.
It's a tower defense. It's like you're setting up turrets. It's like, okay, I'm gonna dress nice, and it's like the bouquet of flowers. That's like that's the fence, the fence with the spikes on them.
You got to keep
and
the
then you
even keel.
You just hope that you can hold out. And by the end, if your defenses haven't been breached, then you're having a good one.
That's it.
I don't know, man. It's too much. It's too many holidays. Too many greeting cards, too many holidays, too much fun. Stop making me fun out there. All right, how are we doing on time? Do you guys have a little bit more time to do the final topic?
I got time.
All right, cool. We can go quick on this one. I was thinking about clothes shopping. I just wanted to talk to you and kind of lament about this because I hate shopping for clothes. But what's funny is that I didn't always hate shopping for clothes. There were times in my life where I actually enjoyed shopping for clothes. In college, I liked shopping for clothes. There were times at IGN. But I've reverted back to just wearing sweatpants and t-shirts every day of my life. I just never wear anything else. There's no reason for me to. Even when we travel to Texas, I'm going to just be wearing sweatpants. I'll wear jeans on stage, but Otherwise, I'll probably just be in sweatpants the entire time we're down there for the live show, and then we come back. And I realized recently, so I work out, but I'm also gaining weight. I'm gaining weight from working out, but I'm probably also gaining a little weight just from getting bigger. And so I've been hanging on like for dear life, right, to 32 or 33/32 jeans, like 33, 32. So for people that don't know, the first number is the waist, the second number is the length. And 32, good length for me. Oh, I wish it was 32. But 32 waist, I feel like I've been wearing that forever. And what I realized was I was wearing them big, and then I kind of grew into them, and now they're like too big. And 33, like getting up there, but now I need to go even higher than that. And so I don't want to deal with this. I don't even know when the last time I bought pants were, like jeans. Probably, we were sponsored by a bunch of different things, so I would get them for like different sponsorships when you're doing like Stitch Fix and all that stuff, which is, I actually really like that place. But otherwise, I haven't gone and bought jeans since I probably lived in San Francisco, like really go and actively buy jeans. And I have to go do this. Like I have to go buy jeans and buy these other clothes, and I just fucking hate it. And I'm just wondering how you guys are feeling, especially in this modern era, because I remember going, like when I was working at IGN and I didn't have a ton of money, I would kind of go shopping once a year or so and be like, I'm going to go spend $500 to $1,000 and just buy clothes. And that's going to be like my shoes for the year, my jeans for the year, like all that shit. And I actually kind of enjoyed doing that, but I was a little slimmer and it was easier to shop for. Not that I'm a fat or anything like that, and to each his own, but it's like just dealing with that. And so here's the thing that brought this up for me. I was like, well, wonder what my waist is. So Micah has I don't know, like a
soft measuring tape.
Right, exactly. Measuring tape. That's the word I'm looking for. And she put it around me and it says 38. And I'm like, there is no way that is true. And I want to know more about how I can still fit into 32 and 33 jeans just tightly. And my waist is 5 inches bigger than that. So then I started having like a nervous breakdown. But then she was like, well, you wear your pants lower than you're really supposed to and all these things. So finally I realized I have to just find websites where like, and apparently these exist, where it's like, listen, I want you to send me the same pair of pants like in 3 different sizes, and I'm sending 2 of them back to you. And
okay.
And apparently there are places that are like kind of cool with doing this. It's like the old school J. Crew kind of shit where you can just bring anything back in person.
Yeah, anytime,
which our sister used to do with great rapidity. She basically had a new J. Crew wardrobe at all times, and I don't think I ever paid for it.
I think they still do that.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of get your guys' feel on this, because I'm 38. I work from home, run this business from home, don't really go. I walk the dogs and go to the supermarket and do things. I do play up the homebodiness a little more than it probably is. I go to restaurants and wear jeans when I go to restaurants, do those kinds of things. But generally speaking, I'm in the house or in the neighborhood, and I literally just wear Mack Weldon sweatpants, same brand. I probably have like 15 pairs of them. And then t-shirts, which I have hundreds of t-shirts, but I wear probably the same 10 t-shirts because they just get washed and put back on the top of the pile. And so that's what I'm just using again, over and over again. And that's literally it. And I just want to know where's your head at? So Gene, let's go to you first. Do you like clothes shopping? How do you feel about it?
I feel like this is like the podcast where I just bring up my exes all the fucking times, but I never liked clothes shopping, right? Never really that into fashion until I started getting girlfriends, and I would just be like, just dress me, just like I'm a lost cause.
Like, please, yeah.
Like do something with all this, you know. And then so over the years, like various women would just dress me, and I would just pick up on that. I would just pick up on their cues on like what kind of shoes to wear, what kind of shirt, and like eventually I started to pick up on that, and I started to become a lot more sartorially correct, if I might say so. And part of that is because, you know, I've been working at newspapers all my life, right? So I always want to distinguish myself from everyone else around me, right? And people at newspapers tend to be pretty schleppy, you know. They'll probably be wearing khaki pants that are like really, really like long, and like the legs are just like billowing in the wind, like, you know, and like really like oversized button-down shirts, like with like, you know, pens in them and everything like that. And I was just like, I just want to be a little bit more put together than all of that, you know. So I would like wear like jeans that would fit me. I would still kind of lean really into like the tech bro or video game like presenter of like the t-shirt and blazers. But I like that. It feels great, you know. Like people are like, you know, there's some discourse on Twitter about like, oh, why can't gamers like gamer men like dress up? It's like because that feels good. It feels good to wear a t-shirt and a blazer. It does, you know.
It does. It does. It's an awesome feeling.
Yeah,
it feels cool, right? Doesn't it? Right?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. So like, I do that, you know, like I'm wearing right now like a shirt with Kate Moss on it, right? For all the video folks, you know, and like I would wear this obviously with a blazer, you know, and like it would work just fine, and it goes great with like my red and white Jordans, you know, and this is like red and white too, so it's a perfect match. I usually shop at like Macy's and like Zara if I'm looking for anything a little cheaper, and you know, I'm not saying that those places are cheap. And eventually I did start getting into like high-end fashion. So I started to shop. I have so many Louis Vuitton shoes. It's ridiculous. Like,
wow.
It's really bad. And each of these shoes are about $500 to $800 each.
What?
Bro,
Yeah.
I have 4 shoes.
Yeah. You know what? You know what's funny is that the protagonist of Forspoken has 4 shoes too, and she's homeless. You know?
Yeah. I gotta get shoes, man. Like I just the thing about shoes to me is like shoes feel so utilitarian that I just don't give a shit how my shoes look ever. Like unless I have dress shoes, obviously, like for like if I'm going to like an event or like I'm going to a wedding or something. But like if I'm just going out and living, like they're just to shield the soles of my feet from the cold and unforgiving jagged ground. That's all it is to me. So like I remember people were like, you gotta get better shoes, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always thought that too. I was like, shoes are just to get around, to so I don't like have bloody feet, you know.
That's exactly like they're like a car to me. Like I could never buy like a nice car. Like even if I was fucking
I would never buy a
loaded,
nice car. Yeah.
if I was loaded beyond belief, I would still. I mean this in like complete sincerity. I would still be driving like a Toyota Corolla if I was like a billionaire.
Yeah.
Because like
here's the thing. Every single woman I've ever met, I've always asked them, what do they look at first in terms of what men dress like, and they always say shoes first. They always fucking say shoes first.
Yeah,
I still don't really quite understand it. Like it's been like 20 years of women telling me this. I still don't quite understand it, but I believe them because I'm always wearing nice shoes. So like, you know, like just the other week, I was shopping at Salvatore Ferragamo again, $500 to $1,000 shoes because I do need a good pair of dress shoes. It's why I bought like a pair of Air Jordans because like those are really nice shoes.
Yeah.
And you know, like women pay attention to that, you know.
I must have been dating blind women exclusively this whole time. Because like I promise you, my shoes have never been the strong suit ever. They've been fine. I buy intentionally plain shoes that melt away into the background.
I have a good looks and charm. I don't know.
I have a pair of all gray like Vessies, which are like those waterproof shoes that I like, and then I have just like all black sneakers, and then like my like black and brown two dress shoes of black and brown. That's all I have. That's literally all I just got boxing shoes, obviously for the boxing. So that's a significant percentage of my shoes now. And so I'm like, I should probably get more. I don't know. I don't know. I like. I don't do the I'm gonna go shopping today thing though. Usually, I'll just find myself out, and I'll be like around. It's like, oh, I'll check this place out, and then I'll usually get like something piecemeal. Like I'll be like, that's a nice blazer. I'm gonna grab that, and that's all. I'll wear it out or something, or like that's a nice jacket. I need to have that. Like it's very rare that happens. Yeah, but you know, I'm at a tricky. It's hard to shop. It's hard to buy clothes for me though, because like I have strange proportions. Like I'm small. I'm a short guy. I'm like 5'4". So like my waist is like 29, right? But then the length has to be like 29 as well, or like 30. Yeah. And that's like a really like not common. It's just not a common cut. If it's 29, it's usually like 29.32. Or like 29, like, and then I have to get my shit hemmed constantly. And it's really annoying.
Chris is a slip of a man, yeah.
But I still have so many. Like I have a lot more clothes than I probably should, to be honest. Like I have a pretty.
I've had to go
robust.
shopping like with intention because like in DC, like you do have to dress up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like I've you gotta dress in like tuxes and like because I've attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner, so like like so I've had to buy my first tux ever, like not just red ones.
That's crazy.
Because I was like, all right, well I guess I'll just fucking buy a tux now, and so I have one tux, and it's funny because like when I started the Washington Post, I started showing up in like a tie and like a button down. And like I was working at a social media team, and my editors were like, Gene, what are you doing? Like you're like way overdressed for this. And I was like, this is like my first week at work. Like at least give me a break, Like
better to be overdressed than underdressed.
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly. I out of an abundance of caution, I overdressed for the first few weeks of the job, and until I started to feel comfortable, and I started really seeing, okay, people are just really just coming in jeans, sneakers, and that's what I just started doing too.
Dude, I was so annoyed because Mike and I went to our wedding tasting for like our food or whatever at the venue, but they did this kind of gathering where it's like all the people getting married in the fall and like winter. They just had like basically a dinner for all of them, and they served the food and the drink and all this. And they said like it's business casual. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wear jeans, my shell toes, and a button down. That's totally business casual. And I worked in. And I would say that's even where in the valley where I work, that's even beyond business casual. But I was like, okay, I feel safe in this, $150 pair of jeans, my shell toes, and like a button down. And I would say we were on the lower end of the way people were dressed. But what annoyed me was the disbalance. The imbalance didn't come from a person wearing a shirt and tie, which wouldn't bother me. It's like people wearing straight up suits and shit like that. And I'm like, you're an asshole. Like you're throwing the balance off here.
For business casual, absolutely, yeah.
And you're a total asshole because you know that the adage is true that you cannot be overdressed. It's way better to be overdressed, so you don't look like an asshole.
Right.
You set the precedent, and so I that was a reminder because I haven't really been out. I'm feral right now. I haven't really been out in the wild very much. Where they're like, it's like, yeah, I got to be reminded that you got to dress up because I used to do that. I used to be very mindful of that, shirt and tie, do all these kinds of things. Like when me and the girls, like our sisters and my mom and I went to the Jefferson Hotel to get like tea, which is like a really nice thing to do in Richmond, Virginia. And I wore like a shirt and tie, and I was like totally probably overdressed for it. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Yeah. You feel good.
Yeah,
you feel good.
It feels
you look good.
To,
you feel good.
Right.
It feels good. Like I love wearing suits. Sincerely, I don't find them uncomfortable. I really sincerely like I like the aesthetic. I feel good in them. Me and my friends would actually do. We would intentionally like set. It wasn't like a super common thing, but every now and again we'd be like. We would have this thing called IHOP and Blazers, where we would go to IHOP either late at night or like early in the morning.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
And we would all dress up as if we were like really important, and then we would like improvise serious business conversations. And we would like and talk like kind of like a little bit loud, so like people around.
Exactly.
And we were talking about like and it was like I'm thinking of firing Cheryl in accounting. And it's like, what does she do? It's like she's and
you don't laugh, you guffaw like
yeah. This is a really dumb way to spend your time, but I highly sincerely, if you have like, I love it. If you have a group of friends and like and you just want something just absurd to do, it's so fun. Because you hear people, you just see the reactions. Like, who are these people? Who do they work for? Like, why are they here? And having these like really, really sensitive business conversations about firing people. We would laugh about firing people and like ruining their lives. It's such a fun, but it was just an excuse to wear a suit, like just to dress nice and go out to eat with no occasion and just have fun.
That's awesome.
Highly recommend it.
It's funny you bring the suit. We bring suits up too, Dig, because it for us, Dagan. We have our sister's getting married in May.
Yeah.
And I have to go get it. And I'm getting a custom made suit for my wedding in October.
Nice.
And I have to get on that probably in the spring, which I'm gonna do. But before that, I have to go get a suit for that, and that's the next thing. So after this whole jeans thing. Now I got to go get a fucking suit. So for that, I'm going to have to go somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to go. Men's Wearhouse.
Yeah, you got to go to a nice place, get a nice tailored suit.
And but for the wedding, I'm getting just a totally built from scratch suit, and I'm excited about that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's cool. But generally speaking, I'm just not into it anymore. I'm wondering where your head's at, Dig, with clothes shopping. You've always been pretty stylish. actually.
Yeah, you think? I mean, I love a nice tailored suit. That is a good feeling to get kind of dressed up in some nice studs. And shout out to Gene with the Louis shoes. I was going to say Louis boat shoes, but that's Jay-Z. We'll just say Louis shoes.
See, here's the thing. I actually own Louis Vuitton flip-flops.
What?
The fuck is that even?
They're just straight up. They're just straight up flip flops with Louis Vuitton branding, and they cost $680.
Dude, do you know what this reminds me of, Gene? Colin may remember this, but he might be too young. Our uncle, our beloved Uncle Mike, his best friend was a New York detective, and I remember him talking about the detectives being real, like showing up at a crime scene was like a fashion show, like $800 shoes, Italian suits. Like there was something about the detectives. They were almost like, this was in the 80s or 90s. I was like, wow. So they have the fashion sensibilities of what you would expect from women, but it's these hardened detectives, but they were really into the way they looked. I always thought that was fascinating. That's awesome. But I mean, for me, like you're looking at it, casual t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. James Dean is what I'm saying. James Dean is what I'm saying.
Dude, that is
like that. And I think, you got to find your comfort. I'm very casual. I think you kind of fall in as you get older, you fall into your authentic style. And I go in and out of things. Like, obviously I've been very inspired by skate, but like Kyle, I like to rock things I like, Kojima Productions or a skate company or something I like. On the t-shirt. I like to advertise things I like on the t-shirt. That's always been a thing. That's a mainstay. And then I'll go through weird phases. Like I went through this baseball tee. I've talked about it before on the podcast. I went through this baseball tee phase where I had every single color of baseball tee. And my wife hated it, but she didn't tell me for like 2 years. She told me like a couple months ago, like, can you stop with the baseball? It's ridiculous. And I remember the thing was we were going to Disney World in the winter. So I thought I was being clever, and we went like 2 or 3 times in a row, 2 or 3 years in a row, took the kids down. And I thought that would be cool. Like February, Orlando, baseball tee, like it's probably going to be 60, 65. It wasn't, it was always hotter, but that was the strategy. But here's my, with my fashion, I don't know, but this is what it made me think of. Colin's topic made me think of. This is actually kind of crazy, but the act of shopping, the act of clothes shopping, like all shopping, right, has gone largely from brick and mortar to online. Of course, brick and mortar still exists. I have a lot of theories about why it still exists and why it's always going to exist. But I get to shop less at the mall, at the actual physical clothing store, whether it's for me or for the kids, or if I'm joining the wife on her shopping excursions. And here's the thing about why it's bad for me and why I lost so many brownie points now with the advent of COVID and online and all this kind of stuff, is because I was raised in the 70s and 80s and trained by the great shoppers, much to my chagrin when I was a kid. My mom, my grandma, our Aunt Carla specifically, these women could shop. And they would take me on these shopping excursions when I was little, 6-8 hours at a time. The mall, the flea market, the clothing store, the strip mall, whatever it was, I was, I was tagging along. There was nowhere for me to go. I went along on these things and I would be bored out of my frigging mind. And I was conditioned. I just got used to it after a while. And where it benefited me was when I grew up, I'm the most patient shopper in the world. I'm gung-ho. Like I'm like not the typical Al Bundy, like, come on, like looking at the watch, let's go type thing. I'm all in. Like, I'll get you, you need another size. Look at this. Like, this will go with this. Here, I'll wait here while you go in the changing room. How can I help? Like, I'm energetic. I'm down. Like, I'm totally jovial. Let me tell you guys, I have patience in the world for 2 things: shopping with the women in my life and animating. I have I have road rage. Like, I have no patience for anything else. All my patience goes to those 2 things.
Yeah. You've stacked your skill points in that.
It's
one
all there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't get to, and I got a lot of brownie points over the years for that, because it's like, I even surprise people. Like, I've been with my wife for 25 years. She'll even be like, I can't believe how patient you're being. Like, it's cool. Like, and I'm fine authentically. I'm not putting on airs. Like, I suffered so much as a kid that I just know how to do it. You know what I mean?
You know how to suffer in silence.
I know how to suffer in silence. It's fine with me. I do the whole martyr thing. That's my cross to bear. That's okay.
I don't have patience at all, but I won't make it anybody's problem. I'll just kind of like, I'll have a blank expression and then my brain will be seething underneath it. But I'll never be like, no, take your time, whatever we got to do. But in my head, I've screamed internally so many times. My mom takes forever.
Oh,
at the grocery store too. Things where we have a list.
That's tough.
And that always drove me mad because I'm like, when I go shopping like groceries and shit, I'm out in less than probably like 15 minutes.
Oh, me too.
And who wants to be there? Yeah.
Yeah, I and then like there's always like somebody making conversation with like the cashier, and I'm just like
the worst.
It drives.
So rude.
It really like makes me unreasonably upset. And I don't know. Shopping.
It's tough. It could be boring. It's hard to pacify yourself. It's hard to find ways to pass the time. Yeah, I hear what you're saying with food shopping, Chris.
I need music. Like that's I bring headphones usually.
That's a good strategy.
If I'm shopping with someone else.
You do the AirPod thing?
I have these like big ass like proper headphones. So there's no risk of anybody else talking to me.
Oh, that's smart.
I had yeah. Sometimes they'll be dead and I'll just have them on.
Oh yeah, they're a good tool.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the introverted move. I love.
You do that in Uber too, right? We used to talk about how you do that in the Ubers too, which is great.
I did that in Ubers. Yeah.
Smart.
If no way,
because I have to do Uber Select. I mean, I have to pay them more money when I use Uber just to be like, there can't be any conversation. No disrespect to you, but no.
Yeah. Oh, Gene, you're not you don't like to converse in the Ubers because you seem like. You seem a little less introverted, I guess.
I am super introverted. But I'm good at faking not being introverted because for my entire life up until I was like age 34, 35, I didn't think I was introverted. I was like, I'm always out all the time, always fucking talking to people. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
And then I realized like that shit would always exist. It wasn't until I got into event organizing when I was like in public relations and I started like putting together like parties and everything like that. Because I used to like I was a co-founder of like the largest like business networking party like in Hawaii, right? And like this shit would be like be attended by like 500 like 700 people, and like I'll be like emceeing and hosting and everything like that, and like it would be great, and like people would be like, oh yeah, gee, blah blah blah, and I would just like be like shut myself away for like a weekend. And it was around that time when I was like, oh, I think I really am an introvert. Like this shit really tires me out.
Totally.
Yeah, I got to recover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why with our live show, it's so funny. People ask, we're doing our next live show in the coming weeks when we're recording this. I don't get nervous for them at all.
Yeah.
And I don't get nervous. I think it's going to go great. It's going to be fine. I don't even think about it. But it's because I know that I can put all of that kind of social and performative energy into that one day or that one frame of days and then be done for a little while.
Yeah. That makes sense.
If I had a tour, if I was like a touring band, I don't know how they do it. In fact, I often talked about when I saw 311 with my friend Ramon. We've seen them many times when his band opened for them in 2017, Bad Rabbits. And so I was backstage all day and interacting with everyone and hanging out. And it was to see this big tour apparatus. And I'm like, this is insane that you guys do this every day, just grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, making a lot of money, of course. But yeah, anyway, back to the topic. Are there any other thoughts here on clothes shopping before we go? I think we're good.
I just have I just have to finish this by saying the reciprocation of my patience with shopping, especially with Helene, is she has no patience and can't even fake it. Like, and it's been this way since the beginning of our relationship when we were dating in the 90s. If I go into a comic book store or, when I was younger, a skate shop, a retro video game store, she won't even go into a GameStop. She could go maybe 5 minutes without physically just short of melting. Like it is the most, she can't even fake it. Like she's just so over it within minutes. And it's a known thing between us, but she authentically cannot reciprocate now, clothing shopping she could do. I think every woman likes to shop for her man. So we go into J. Crew or Banana or wherever we're going, right? Urban Outfitters, whatever. She could be there all day. If she's not shopping for herself, that's fine. Shopping for the kids, clothes shopping for me, it's clothes shopping. It's fine. But if we go into anywhere specifically for me, and look, I'm going to be 20 minutes in the comic book shop. That's it. there's no way I'm going to be longer. I'm going to see what appeals to me, look through some back issues, what's going on. She can't even last half of that. She won't even last 5 minutes.
That's
it's
tough.
the most, it's actually insane. I'm like, you're like she's worse than a 2-year-old. You know what I mean? She can't even she's an artist. Can't you just pacify yourself by pulling a comic book off and looking at it for 5 minutes while I do this?
Yeah, it's true. And also, a quick aside as well is, what was the fucking shopping thing with the women in our family? It's very weird.
Oh my God.
It was like a really big thing.
It was a hobby. It was,
and
a
it's still for
straight up
Aunt Carla
hobby.
and Uncle Mike. It still is. I mean, they still really get a lot of joy out of just going and shopping and just doing like that. They love it. And I think they were a little mad at me over the holiday. Not mad at me, but I don't know if I said it on one of the shows. I basically put the kibosh on our holiday gift exchange starting this year. I'm like, no more. Done. We're done. We're not doing this anymore.
It's over.
Because we do like a Secret Santa kind of thing, or like a white elephant type of thing. And I'm like, none of you, including me, none of us need anything. So stop. We're not doing this anymore. And so we only do the ugly ornament exchange now. But then some people were lamenting, I missed it. I'm like, I didn't. I'm not ever doing it again. So you guys can all participate with it yourself, but I'm not. And once you turn 18, I'm not buying you gifts anymore for Christmas. All the kids, they obviously get gifts, but
that's different. That's different.
You know,
sure.
if they're there, I'm not going to get crazy. All right, guys, that was fun. That was a good conversation at Constellation. I appreciate you guys. Gene, let's say goodbye to you first. People can find you on Twitter and on the Washington Post, obviously.
Or in the Washington Post.
Yep.
Yeah, in the Washington Post, just Gene Park Washington Post, if you want to Google it and see the rest of my stories. So, Dagan, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
It was awesome. Let's do it again.
Yeah, thank you for thinking that I'm extroverted. I actually take that as a compliment because, because I'm intentionally faking it. So if people think that I'm extroverted, I'm like, okay, it's that means it's working.
That's
You're doing a good job. Yeah,
I totally get that.
Everything you say is a lie.
Yeah, it's everything is a lie. Yes, yeah. This is all just like a facade. So I'm just gonna go back after and play Dead Space. That's exactly what I'm.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. I have it it's actually out now, but it was preloaded. It's ready to go. Yeah, I'm gonna do that this weekend as well. Well, thank you, Gene, for being here with us. We appreciate you. Glad you're healthy. Glad you're still with the Post, and we'll have you back very soon. No doubt about it. Chris, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you. You're very busy. Good luck with the fight. I mean, we'll talk to each other. You'll probably be on this show again too before the fight, but
yeah, for sure.
But congratulations on that announcement. I know you've been really preparing for that, and might want to go into the concussion protocol since you got your bell wrong today. Like the NFL concussion protocol. You might want to look into that.
I don't think I don't think I have a concussion.
Okay,
I very much doubt it. I feel entirely fine. But it's just,
I got beat up in high school, and I got a concussion from that for sure. I got the shit kicked out of me. It wasn't good.
Jeez.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I got jumped. Well, me and a bunch of my friends got jumped. We told the story on Knockback once, and I did fight back. That was the thing is I've been in the 2 fights and I've lost them both when I was younger, but I didn't back down. I went down. I didn't go down like a bitch. No one is ever going to tell me I went down like a bitch. I didn't.
I didn't.
Dagan, as always, good to see you, my friend.
Super fun. Thanks for having me.
No problem, my friend. We'll see you back on. Well, we'll see you on Sacred Symbols Plus, on Knockback soon, etc. and so on. More Constellation.
Busy.
So very busy. And thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. We're at an all-time, or not an all-time. We're at a 6-month high right now in patrons on Last Stand Media, which is awesome. And we're only a few hundred off from our all-time high, which is sweet. So, so thank you so much for that. We appreciate you. Constellation's doing great. Sacred Symbols doing great. Defining Duke, Knockback, everything's doing great. All thanks to you. So thank you again for that. We'll see you next time for more. Until then, goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.